Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Town of Superior Board of Trustees, the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 Board of Directors, and the Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District Board of Directors for February 22nd, 2016. Phyllis, can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Clint Folsom.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Williams.
Here.
Trustees Joe Sorelli.
Here.
Rita Dozell. Julia Gregoris.
Here.
Chris Sampson.
Here.
Sandy Pennington.
Here.
Town Manager Matt Magley.
Here.
Town Attorney Kendra Carberry.
Here.
Town Clerk Lois Hart.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any items on the consent agenda or other changes that we'd like to make to the agenda?
Just a sec here.
Oh, 11G.
Okay. Trustee Hansen would like to pull 11G. Anything else?
Is anyone pulling 11H? Do you want to talk about 11H or not?
I'm not pulling it.
Okay.
Okay, we're good?
Yes.
Good with the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve. Are we approving the agenda?
Approving the agenda with 11G pulled.
Yes.
Okay, motion by Trustee Gregoris, second by Trustee Sorelli. All those in favor?
Wait,
No.
sorry. I just feel very compelled. Unfortunately, I'm going to pull 11H.
Okay.
All right, so G and H are pulled.
Wait a minute, we had a motion and a second.
Now you second it.
Now
We
it's
pulled G and
second.
H, yeah, right.
Okay. Redo your motion to
Like,
approve the agenda, pulling G and H. Okay. Motion, second by Trustee Sorelli. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimous. All right, next is reports, questions, and issues. Who'd like to start?
so I'd like to go first and say that I have nothing to report, so I'm giving my 2 minutes to Trustee.
And I'm not going to need it. I only have OSAC meeting to report. It was a great meeting, but we've had 2 resignations because of work conflicts. And so, if anybody out there, please apply. That's all.
Okay.
And the great ProStack meeting we just
Oh,
had
that's
that
right.
we all
Okay, so-
attended.
Yes. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Williams?
I have very little report as well, but I did attend a campaign kickoff for Boulder County Commissioner Elise Jones, giving her support, not from the town of Superior, but just myself. And it was a great meeting. Got to see everyone in the whole county. And that also includes Boulder County Commissioner Deb Gardner. Both of them are up for re-election in November. So, vote. And then there's a special town board meeting next Monday. And next Friday, I have my first Fridays on March 4th at 7:30 to 9:30 at Starbucks. So that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Hansen?
Yep, I don't really have much to report either, but did want to say thank you very much to town staff and the local fire departments for taking action on the fire that was in Superior last Friday. So really good job. Thank you very much. I did want to ask the rest of the board, I had a couple of replies about the legislative agenda that the consortium of cities would like us to either agree to or not. So I sent out the information, just wanted to see if you guys had a chance to look at it.
I have to say, I scanned it,
Okay.
but I don't like to weigh in on those matters that I'm not fully vetted in, so I will recuse.
Okay. So the consortium works by consensus. So if
Mhm.
there's one municipality that says we're not in, then they
Mhm.
don't go with it. So what are you guys' thoughts? I mean, can I go back to them and say that we're fine with
Well, that was my thought.
I replied to you, yes, and
Yes.
I think it is important as a municipality, even though we're small and some of these things may not apply to us, I do think it's important for us to weigh in. We're part of a bigger region, and it is important for us to weigh in on these things. So I think
if you-
absent
yeah,
some
yeah.
compelling reason not to, I think we should go ahead with it.
I think if you've had the opportunity to vet it and don't see any problems, and Kendra, didn't you vet that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to get a quick synopsis so we all kind of understand what you're talking about? Somebody?
It's what trustee
Yeah,
gets.
I didn't bring the packet of stuff with me to review right now, but
I can pull up my email if you like.
there was really the one that was, I don't think this board has seen before, and that's the one that I asked you to review.
Correct. That's
So-
the
Scientific,
SCFD
yeah.
funding, so that's the Scientific and
Yeah,
Cultural
please.
Facilities District funding. Bill, that extends the funding, and it kind of reworks some of the numbers for the funding. The Scientific and Cultural Facilities District sponsors various scientific and cultural facilities throughout this area. And I can pull up my email and get the exact counties and everything else that it involves. But this would be to put a question on the ballot in the fall for voters to vote on whether to extend that tax.
Right.
And to reallocate some of the funds within that, how those tax funds are spent.
Yep, so none of those are asking for a new tax.
It's an extension of an
It's just an
expiring tax.
extension, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
And for what it's worth, too, Metro Mayors has discussed this for months and is fully on board with that piece. The other two had to do with tax extension, tax
Yeah.
credits and things of that.
and then the allowing RTD to take the buses on the shoulder.
Oh, right.
Another one that our US 36 mayors group is
Right.
fully behind that measure. So I think these are
Okay.
all
Nothing
very.
controversial, yeah.
But-
Nothing controversial. Say thumbs up. Okay.
Good, yep, thanks, that's all.
Trustee Cirilli.
Let me see, a few things. Was informed that the Rocky Flats Stewardship Council was informed by DOE that they will get another year's grant funding to keep the Stewardship Council running. The DOE has given them a 5-year grant that they parse out 1 year at a time, so they'll be getting the next year's funding from DOE. I attended an RCAC update. I can't call it a meeting because it didn't have a quorum, which, again, public announcement, we need some people to consider applying and joining RCAC if that's the Resource Conservation and something committee. I forget the A stands for offhand. So they did not conduct their election for 2016 because they haven't had their meeting, which they'll have to do in March, assuming there will be a quorum. Historic Commission met last Friday. They have planned their spring program, which I think is April 21st. And they're looking at ideas to make themselves more present in the community. So they're going to pretty much have adopted the idea of, at least for the summer months, of opening up 2 times a month, 2 different Saturdays a month. So that would be good. Then had the post-act dinner, which was great, and just before this meeting, and finally did attend another meeting of our joint group with Louisville, looking at the updated numbers on the waste water sharing, and I think you got a memo from Alex on that, and it really does not look like the numbers support going that way and giving up our independence in that area. So and I think Louisville's kind of agreeing with that too. So
Joe, I had a question about that. So I
Mhm.
can see where it doesn't seem to benefit Superior because of the cash outlay. But in the memo, it said that Louisville didn't feel like it was a good deal either. And I
Well-
wondered, I didn't understand. If we had to pay more, I would think that they would want us to be on board more if we were picking up a
I think
bigger share of it.
it's more what do they have to prepare for if we're gonna, and we've been studying this for a while and throwing money at studying it, and everybody's just kind of agreeing it's not worth throwing money at studying it anymore. So that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, for my announcements, on the 9th of February, I attended a US 36 Commuting Solutions meeting. This is a group that meets monthly and talks about transportation issues. And there was an update on the Flatiron Flyer bus service, the new bus service that was introduced at the first of the year, bus rapid transit service for the US 36 corridor. Overall, positive response from riders. There has been some concerns that there have been some stops in Boulder that have been cut in order to try to improve the travel times, and that's creating a little bit of discussion. There was actually so much demand on the FF4, that's the bus that goes to Civic Center Station, that they've had to add buses onto that route, so that's a good sign. And the good overall economy has RTD struggling to keep and hire new drivers. So if you're looking for a side job and want to drive a bus, now would be a great time. First of the year, the fare schedule changed, and the AB line to the airport actually decreased in price, $13 down to $9. And in April, on April 22nd, the route of the AB to the airport is going to change. Instead of going through Denver, it's going to take the Northwest Parkway. And so that will be especially useful in times of heavy traffic when the buses get caught up in all the traffic. There's never any traffic on the Northwest Parkway. So great option, $9 trip to the airport. And we're also getting the call and ride service back in Superior. We don't have an exact date for that yet, but it's spring, early summer time frame. The vehicles are on order for that, and that will allow you to call RTD, call directly and request pickup at your home, drop off at the bus stop, and go to the airport or go wherever. So looking forward to that. April 22nd is also the A line opening, which is the train from Union Station to DIA. So it'll be a great new addition to transit for the area. On the 19th, on Friday, I attended the grass fire, and I've been to several wildfires over the years, and this one definitely, I think, had the potential to burn up some houses. And fortunately, the wind cooperated, and we had great response from Rocky Mountain Fire and 7 other agencies and town staff. Matt kept us informed with what was going on with text messages, and appreciate that. I ran into Patrick and Matt Rarick and Reggie out in the field, and really appreciate them stopping whatever they were doing, getting out into the neighborhoods to help out with communications with the fire department, sheriff's office. It was kind of an all-hands-on-deck situation, and fortunately it ended the way it did. So thank you for everyone. On March 5th through 9th, I'll be in Washington, D.C. for the National League of Cities and Colorado Municipal League trip. And that is a series of educational seminars for elected officials, and there's also several Colorado-specific meetings that will be happening on that event. 72 elected officials from 20 different cities and towns in Colorado are going to be part of that event. So that is it for my announcements. Town manager?
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay. Town attorney?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Town clerk? Okay. I think in record time, we're done with reports, questions, and issues. So now we'll move on to public comment, and this is an opportunity for you in the public to speak on consent agenda or non-agenda items. We do have an agenda item coming up that some of you may be here for, and that is the discussion of Coal Creek Crossing trails. You're welcome to speak now or wait until that point in time. Either one would be fine. And so, public comment on consent agenda, just give me a wave and I'll signal you to come up if you'd state your name and address, and hold your comments to 5 minutes. And if you do have repeat, or if you're commenting on something that others have commented on, just please maybe condense your comments. So go ahead.
It's non-agenda, is that okay?
That's fine. Sure. Consent or non-agenda items, absolutely.
And my name's Nikosha Hunninger, and we live in West Yarrow Circle, and happy that the fires were put out as well, because that was our backyard. So thank you to everybody who was involved in that. Tonight I'm here, though, regarding off-leash dogs in that exact area behind the south pool and the West Yarrow homes, in that open space kind of running down the hill there where the trails and sidewalks are. It's safety issues, health implications, and noise violations. The safety issue is just, there's so many. Like, people will have 2 to 4 dogs at a time out there off leash, and they're running all over in front of bikes, in front of skateboarders. One jumped on me several times before the owner could get it under control, ripped my headphones off my head, jumped so high. Now someone just had a surgery. They could have been in big trouble if they're recovering from something and these dogs are jumping on them. Owner didn't even apologize or think it was any big deal whatsoever. And then health implications of these off-leash dogs, the biggest one being, since we back to the open space, I see them all day long, and it's not just one time of the day, it's all day. And they'll go to the bathroom, the owners turn their head, dogs go poop, pee, whatever, sidewalks, off on the trails where people mountain bike and run, and kids are walking to school, and they're not picking it up. So it's being seen all day in that sense. And then the noise violation issue is just, they run up to on-leash dogs, causing a commotion to the dog that's on the leash, and the owner and the off-leash dog owners don't care. They just let them do whatever they want to do. And then their off-leash dogs also run up to the fences, like right on our property line there, and they start yapping with the dogs right there, making them feel uncomfortable because they're encroaching, jumping on their fences, and making the neighbors' dogs start going crazy as well. And then in the summers and spring, when it's nice out, it's like a dog park back there in the sense of there's that retention pond. So people will bring their multiple dogs and then just play catch with them, let them jump in that lake all day long, get out. They're barking, the owners don't care. And then it would be one thing if it was one person, but it's person after person after person. So if you back to that, you hear that all day long. It's like you're at a I don't know, something too loud, I guess. So I feel like it would do no good to send out a newsletter reminding them to put their dogs on leash, because they have their leashes in their hand. So these people obviously know that there's a leash law, and they're intentionally letting their dogs run off leash. And then I called Sarah, who's supposed to be the animal code enforcement here in Superior, and she was going to send out some kind of enforcement. Never did. They leave work at 4 or 5, she said, which is another big problem because a lot of that comes after the hours of which they close. So I guess I'm just wanting help in figuring out the enforcement, because until there's enforcement, it's not going to change, unfortunately. And it gets worse because people see other people without their dogs on the leashes, so then they come back there, turn their dogs loose, and now there's 20 dogs off leash back there running around and getting in everybody's way and barking. So I guess that was my point. I just want to know if there's any kind of enforcement that's going to be implicated back there behind the South Pool on those trails.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for the comments, and we can definitely follow up with staff and with the sheriff's office and
Thank
talk
you.
about this issue further. So
Yes,
thank
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Additional public comment. Go ahead.
I would just say,
If you could come up to the
mic.
front.
I was just going to say, maybe we'll reserve our comments till later on the Coal Creek neighbors.
Okay, that's
That might
fine.
make more sense.
Sure.
When that comes up.
Okay. Anyone on consent agenda or non-agenda items? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Ken Lish, 1326 South Idalia Court. I'm also the chair of the Open Space Advisory Committee. I'm here tonight to represent OSAC on a few different agenda items you guys will be discussing. I just want to let you know what our views are as a committee for your forethought. A few of the prepared remarks. The Zaharias property. The committee feels very strongly that there should be some type of incorporation of a viewing area, boardwalk, trail system, whatever that backs up to the reservoir. With the newly refilled reservoir, there's going to be more wildlife coming back to the area, and as such, it's going to become a potential gem for the community, not just as a wildlife habitat, but as some place where the community can come and enjoy the actual wildlife we have in our town. Beyond that, we'd also ask that the continuity of the trail plan be considered, and that trails be added to the concept plan. We have proposed trails on the 5-year trail plan that actually go near that area. If the continuity of the system can be considered and trail connections be put in place, it would help our system tremendously. And then finally, if plan continues to go forward, we ask that OSAC be involved with the process. That way we can continue to provide input and feedback as a group that's dedicated to looking out for the town's open space and trail interests. The second piece of agenda we'd like to talk about is the Coal Creek crossing trails. From OSAC's point of view, we stand by our original recommendation not to construct either trail. That is a recommendation born purely out of a open space thought process. Our concern is that these trails are duplicative and that we already have existing connections in the area. The area that the trails would be crossing are a wetland area that has been undisturbed for quite some time. And by adding trails there, we could potentially be impinging on habitat, forcing wildlife further from the area. So purely from a open space standpoint, we are continuing to stand by our recommendation not to construct either trail. Finally, we'd like to talk about the agreement with the matrix design that is on the agenda. We are not here to discuss the funding, which I know has been kind of a topic for the board, but more just asking that the board continue to bring us into the loop and allow us to work with Matrix once the agreement is in place. The riparian corridor is of crucial importance, not just to the Superior Town Center project, but also to the town as a whole. It's the primary avenue for the wildlife to navigate an area that was in the not too distant past completely undeveloped and functioning as a habitat for much of the wildlife in the area. As we indicated in an April 2015 recommendation to the board, this is of the highest priority for OSAC, so any input we could continue to provide to this process would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Guys, a quick question. On the Coal Creek Crossing Trail, the north-south trail,
Yeah.
OSAC has taken a position not to have that trail there, but there's been discussions within ProStack and other groups that if you don't have any made trail there, there's going to be social trails eventually, which I would think would be more damaging to the wetlands in the area.
It was OSAC's view that that area is typically so wet, since it is a wetland and there's a naturally occurring spring over there, that it wouldn't actually lend itself to social trails. I haven't personally been over there recently, and I have heard that the construction may or may not have caused some of the drying of that area. But over the past several years, it has typically been very wet over there, and it wouldn't really be possible unless people are willing to go shin and knee deep into water to create social trails.
Okay, thanks.
And thank you very much. I really appreciate all your comments on all the different agenda items. That really is helpful.
Thank you very much for the consideration.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
George Kuffner, 7520 West Coal Creek, and I'm here to talk about the north-south trail. We've been here a long time, and we have a trail to the west of us. We have one to the south of us. We have the road on the north, and if we put this trail in, we'll be completely boxed in with the trail. And as far as people making their own trail, they better wear a pair of hip waders or get their shoes sucked off, because down there in the corner, it gets awful wet almost every year. The dewatering they've done is actually further to the north than right there in the south corner. And I think that it will damage the wildlife. We see less and less coyotes. I don't see the black foxes anymore. So if we're going to think about putting a trail, I'd like to put it on hold until at least the people that buy the homes in the little cul-de-sac there where we're going to put it have an input on this, because sooner or later it's going to get out that there's a way to get onto the trail, where to put your car, and they will disconvenience some people, I think, tremendously when they come and park for the day or half a day, depending on which way they walk. And it will make a tough situation for them. It ain't going to bother people that live down on 4th or 5th or 6th like it's going to bother the people up there on the cul-de-sac. And like us, we live up there, and it's nothing for me to get up at 2 or 3 in the morning and see a blue light coming through the field. And you know there's a trail there, but it takes a second or two to register that this guy's out in the middle of the night or early morning on his bicycle with a blue light. It looks like he's coming into your yard. So we don't have a whole lot of police action to keep it from daylight till dark. You know, so I mean, it's kind of a 24-hour trail. And it makes it a little tough when you live up there. So I wish you guys would consider waiting until at least the people that are going to live there have an input as well as the rest of us. Because it's going to affect us as well as the self-storage people, I believe. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for comments. Additional public comment? Anything further? Public comment. Okay, we'll go on to presentations. Item number 10. We have a concept plan for the Zaharias property.
Thanks, Mayor. Representatives of Steel Wave are here tonight to present their concept plan to the trustees concerning their proposed development of the property that's formerly known as the Zaharias property. The property lies northwest of the Hodgson-Harris Reservoir, immediately east of South 88th Street, and is approximately 23.4 acres. Property's in the Rock Creek Ranch PUD, Planned Unit Development, and it's zoned Regional Activity Center, or RAC, which allows a broad scope of uses, including commercial, office, research, technological uses, flex space. The comprehensive plan identifies the property as preferred land uses of mixed commercial, office, moderate intensity residential use such as patio homes or senior housing, and also notes that a portion of the property may be considered as high value open space. Let's see. And with that, I think the applicant's here tonight. I'll have you come on up and introduce yourself and present your concept plan.
Good evening. Thank you. Appreciate your time tonight. My name is Dennis Cavallari. I'm a senior managing member with a company called Steel Wave. And quickly, I know you've all probably read through the summary that's been prepared. We're proposing 273 units in here and 42,000 square feet of commercial office space. The commercial office space we would like to project as medical office space because we'd like to tie in with the hospital community to the north. As far as the units go in here, they're predominantly all townhouses, and they're townhouses with a mother-in-law unit, as we would call it. The unit sizes go up to about 1,800 to 1,900 square feet. We've heard previously about the trail system, et cetera, and obviously we'd be very sensitive to that and would take any and all input pertaining to the trail system. Don't want to overtalk the concept, and ready for questions if you'd like, and I could expand upon anything further if you want. And we have the architect here as well as the planning and landscape architecture. So we're ready to answer any questions you'd like.
Okay. Questions, board?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, who wants to start?
We have imagery too.
Here you go. Here's a laser.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, cool. Do you want to? Why don't you talk through some of that, because you know better.
I'm Nathan Shara with KT2I Group, with architects that Dennis has engaged to help him evaluate this site and look at moving it forward. We just pulled some imagery together on what the buildings potentially could look like. At this point in time, we obviously haven't designed anything and are really looking to this meeting to kind of see where the town stands, and then we'll work to make sure we come up with something that fits both your goals, Dennis's goals, and obviously the surrounding neighbors' goals as well. So what we've put together is kind of a combination of some traditional contemporary blend type architecture. It's not going to be true traditional and not going to go all the way to something contemporary that doesn't fit at all, but something that gives a sense of something new and different, and things are changing, but again, still being cognizant of the neighborhood and the community and trying to address so that it fits in and it doesn't kind of stand out as a sore thumb. So that's kind of what we're representing on this page. Again, none of these are what would really be there, but projects we've done as KTGY in the past. This is kind of looking at what that medical office could be. There's a potential that the ground floor could have some retail with medical office above. It could be all medical office. A lot of it really depending on the tenant as he goes to market with the land and the proposed buildings. A lot of what the architecture turns into will be on who the user is. But this kind of style is generally what we're thinking at this point in time. But again, it's all very open for discussion, and we'd like to hear some thoughts as we work through it.
Good evening, Mayor Folsom, members of the trustees, town trustees. I'm Diana Rael with Norris Design. We're landscape architects and land planners, and we put 2 image boards together as well to dovetail the architecture that Nathan's firm has put together. And really, what we would propose would be a soft landscape, much like the communities and neighborhoods in Superior, drought-tolerant grasses. A very natural palette. We understand that we're in an ecosystem with the reservoir there, and I understand it's very a lot of wildlife and birds, and it's got an amazing habitat now that it's been redone. So we would expand on that habitat, and I think we would be supportive in working with the OSAC on the trail system and some of the key regional connections for the trail. And an overlook area as well, so that folks from the community can take advantage of those views. We also have talked about a loop trail that would go around the project, so making a connection, not just a out and back kind of a trail, but really one that would go all the way around. There's a wetland area along 36 that we could also run the trail adjacent to as well. So this would be an example of some of the landscape in the office area with the medical office. Again, this would be probably a 2-story office, and so these are some of the concepts that we've put together. Again, very drought-tolerant landscape. And then for the residential, again, we're looking for a soft landscape palette that's sensitive to pedestrians and screening parking areas. Good walkways from one unit to from units to parking and amenities. There's amenities proposed, barbecue areas, playground areas. There's a clubhouse with a pool amenity as well. So we would obviously continue the landscape palette and come up with a consistent theme that would go throughout the project, so that it really feels, from a monumentation and landscape standpoint, that it's very cohesive. And one project versus two different feels. So that's all I had.
Okay.
We're all available to
Thank you.
answer any questions.
Is this a for sale product or a for rent product?
Because of the construction liability laws in the state of Colorado, it's almost virtually impossible to be able to finance a project like this as a for sale project. So here's the concept on this. About 20 years ago, I was a developer on the Saddlebrook project on the other side of the reservoir. And what I'd like to do is try and mimic that same situation over there. That was built as a rental and then converted to fee ownership. And in the same situation here, we're designing a product that will eventually be fee ownership into the marketplace. Townhomes, large units, et cetera, private garages, everything that you would expect in a townhouse project. And what we would have to do is rent it initially and either wait until a moment at which when the laws seem to be evolving and changing in the state, and then it could be converted, or wait for 3 to 4 years and then convert it after we know that there's no construction issues out there that we could be that the partnership would be sued from. So that's the concept going into it. And again, the design is a for sale design with large townhomes, mother-in-law units, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. So the zoning for the property is not currently allow for residential. So that's one of the, I think that's probably one of the biggies that you're looking for from this board.
That's why we're here.
It's kind of our
it's what we want.
what
We
our
want to get
reaction to that
feedback
is.
from the town
Okay.
board and see if this is worth pursuing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, others questions?
Yeah, just
Trustee
a
Hanson.
quick question. I remember discussing this parcel a couple of years ago as a board, and I always thought this was a really good spot for a retirement community, close to Avista, close to Hodgson Harris Reservoir, so it's a good view. But I always, for some reason, thought it would be more like the Boulder Meridian type retirement community. This seems big to me. It seems like a lot. Is there a demand for this type of thing in this area?
Yeah. This density is actually pretty low density. This is a little over 12 to the acre. So it's a very comfortable townhouse density. And even though it's maybe, we're looking at an imagery board up here, some of those open spaces are rather large open spaces. Is there a demand? Yes, there's a demand for this product.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is I drive that every morning, the
Right.
carpool to Monarch K, Monarch High School.
Sure.
With that many residency, what is that going to do to the traffic? Because sometimes at some point in the morning, that's jammed, and it's
Right.
really hard to get out on, I forget the name of that street that comes onto 88.
I'm not sure which
Weldona?
one.
Yeah,
You're going-
Weldona. It's, some cars sit there for quite a while, so I'm wondering what that's going to be like on that little road with all that additional housing.
From a traffic standpoint, let's compare two things. Let's take a look at the current zoning, which is predominantly commercial, and this zoning right here. If you were to move forward with commercial zoning on this, you're going to have way more traffic, and it's going to underscore exactly what you're saying. Because your peak hours are going to be in the morning and the evening with commercial. If there's a residential development that's employed in here, what it tends to do is disperse that traffic throughout the day. So from a traffic standpoint, you couldn't ask for a better development project to address your concerns.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I have a number of questions, and I'm also going to be speaking for another trustee, Rita Dozell. She has a number of questions as well. First of all, did I hear right that you developed the Saddlebrook area?
20 years ago, yeah.
Okay, and so how many residential units are there per acre? Or however that number
You're
is.
really testing my memory here. I don't. It's high, the density is way higher than this.
It's
The site is smaller and the unit
Okay.
count is a little bit bigger.
So how many acres is Saddlebrook?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It's 20
How many
years ago.
acres is this?
If you wanted to, I could follow up with it.
That'd be great. I would
Yeah,
love
this
that.
is 23 acres, Mike? This is 23 acres.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you're thinking Saddlebrook is half that size, or?
Saddlebrook might be half or 60%, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great number, just
Yeah, right, and
compare.
by comparison, if you drive through Saddlebrook, there's very little open space.
Mhm.
I think we would both agree on
Right.
that. And just looking at this, you can see what we've tried to do is orient each building onto some sort of meaningful open space.
Okay. So speaking of the open space,
Sure.
while we're on that, what I would like to see, and I know OSAC feels the same way,
Mhm.
is what's bordering the reservoir. I was hoping to see a lot more open space, like that be your majority right there, the more of a buffer there.
Down and through here?
Yes. And, some sort of boardwalk or trail or
Sure.
whatnot.
Yeah.
But give more of the sense of openness and of a wetland kind of feel
Okay.
to it. And I saw some of the presentation on the greenery and shrubbery and xeriscape, and that's great. Have you thought about maybe somewhat on the this border here along the reservoir doing something like an arboretum of some sort? Maybe that's there's open space, there's native lands, and then as you go further in, there's more of an arboretum to enjoy
Sure.
all of the
Yeah.
different species, and then
That's why we're here tonight.
It's just a
to
thought.
get feedback. It sounds wonderful, and we'd love to study it and see how we could incorporate it. And as far as, the open space along the reservoir and creating, I forgot the terminology that the man mentioned earlier, but we would work closely with them on creating the appropriate interface, if you will, to the reservoir, the open space, and how it transitions into the buildings.
Yeah, 'cause-
and keep in mind, this is very conceptual, and that's
I get
we're
that.
here to.
And this is just the feedback to
Right.
you.
Yeah, no, we thought that
yeah.
sounds wonderful, and
Like
we'd
what
be,
you created on Saddlebrook with all those townhomes was enough setback that created a very wonderful, viewing area.
contiguous to the reservoir.
And
right,
and it
right.
raised their property values.
Sure.
So, I mean, I would assume that you could do the same on
Yeah.
the other side.
Mhm.
So that's one big one for
Sure.
me.
Yeah.
Bear with me here, I have number
While
of
you
things.
find that, can I follow
Sure.
up on a point?
Yeah.
I think it's important, OSAC, that this boardwalk or the viewing area along Hodgson Harris be publicly accessible.
Yes.
Not necessarily just an amenity for your residents.
Yes. Oh, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no misunderstanding.
Okay.
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay, and continuing on, have you thought about a third entrance at the end here, the southern end?
We,
My-
we haven't, but we certainly would. We could and we would. That was kind of directed to try and line up with the existing intersections there, so that's
Yep.
what we've tried to accomplish.
I get that, but some neighborhoods that we have, or some areas that we have, some of these townhome areas, they get very congested, and there's like one or two ways out,
Yeah.
and you just feel like you're kind of caught up in there.
We'd be happy to,
So I could-
yeah, absolutely.
It's a thought.
Sure.
Throw that in there.
Absolutely.
You mentioned retail.
A potential for retail.
What would that be?
Well, I think we need to be somewhat candid here about the commercial, okay? We don't want to kid anybody. This is really, in the real world of real estate, this is not a commercial location, okay? And I could bring ULI in here and all the members that I know, and we could have great discussion on this. And I would be willing to bet you $1,000 tonight there's not a person on the ULI board or anywhere that could endorse this location for commercial. And the reason being is because you can't get to it from a commercial standpoint. Retail needs accessibility, drive-by, et cetera. Now, having said that, if we're able to tie into the medical community to the north, the retail that I would envision might be a pharmacy or some sort of supportive retail that's supporting the use that would be there. A lot of times medical offices will write a prescription and they'll tell people to go downstairs and fill it out there, and that facility is available for them.
So you're not thinking of a Walgreens or a CVS sort of?
I don't think if you paid them to go in there, I don't think they go in there.
Yeah, probably not. Okay.
So we've got to be real about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I'm asking
Right.
what you envision
Sure.
retail. And then some of the other questions I have are from Trustee Dozal. So the max building height is 120 feet.
We're not even close to that.
Okay. Where are you?
We haven't really talked about it, but yeah, maybe in the 40s somewhere. 3 stories.
Okay.
And the first floor tends to be made up of a mother-in-law unit, a garage, and then the townhouse units sit above it.
Okay. What about the
And-
commercial buildings?
Oh, the commercial buildings. Yeah, very. Yeah, about
Okay.
the same.
And I'm assuming the 120 feet comes from the RAC.
Yeah, it comes directly
zoning?
from the zoning that's
the
in
PD,
the PD.
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
Would you like us to go up to
No,
120 feet?
no,
Okay.
no.
Just wanted to clarify that.
We thought it was
Just
a
wanted to
typo.
clarify that.
I don't think we can, but just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a deal killer there.
Understood.
So you're thinking of the townhomes being about 3 stories?
Yes.
Not higher than that?
No higher than that,
Okay.
absolutely. And then if you look at the architecture, let me just focus in, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, I was
What
gonna
we're
mention on that,
portraying
too.
here is a flat roof. And so what that helps to do, actually, is bring the height down. Because if you start the gable roofs and the pitches go up, and sometimes in a product like this, you're going to want a pretty good pitch. You might get to a 612 or an 812 or something, and it's going to peak out. So with a more contemporary architectural flavor like this, we can bring the height down a little bit.
Okay.
And then, you know, on the top floor, we may want to boost that up a little bit. Instead of 9 or 10 feet, we might want to go 11 or 12, something like that.
Okay. Well, I can tell you there's one board member on here that will not like flat roofs.
Okay.
And she's about to speak.
Well, that's fine. You know, there's...
Not to self-disclose.
Right,
anyhow.
right. Sure, I understand.
So just my 2 cents and Dozel's 2 cents, we both agree on this, is the bottom 2 designs seem a little more warm and friendly, not that cold,
Sure.
institutional feel. The top 2 have kind of a cold institutional feel to me.
I told him not to bring those top 2 pictures. So it's all his fault.
We agree, right?
We agree. We're in agreement.
Oh,
No,
perfect.
the way the way I would envision the process to take place, we're happy to prepare imagery and come back in and talk about it. Yeah. And if you want, you know, if there's a committee or however, we're happy to work with the committee, the architecture review board, however you want to, you know, do that. And we're happy to work with the community to develop the architecture so that if the project is built, we incorporate into the community and we're a good part of the community.
Okay.
So.
All right, I'm going to go back to Saddlebrook. I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm going to stir your
Absolutely.
mind here,
That's
your
fine.
memory. Is any of those townhomes, do any of them have no garages?
That's a great question, and I believe there are some that do not have garages. I believe all the townhomes have garages, but I believe there's some of the one-bedrooms, you know, the way that product is built, there are townhomes, and then garages all on one side, and then on the back side, there are one-bedroom units. But as I'm recalling, I think maybe every unit has a garage in there.
Okay.
I think maybe so.
I think
Yeah.
you might be right.
I think I'm right, yeah. Or I think I'm recalling,
Yeah.
trying to recall properly, yes.
So, do you plan on doing the same here?
Yes.
I know you do, okay,
Yeah.
because it doesn't insinuate that. You have 273 units, is that correct?
We plan on having a garage for everybody in here.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is incorrect. There's only
That was an
230.
initial concept.
Okay.
Right.
So we're not looking at that then?
Right, so
Perfect.
where you're going with it is surface parking, and yes, we're trying to eliminate surface parking, get it all garaged. And again, the objective is this is a for-sale townhouse project, and because of construction liability laws and the situation we're dealing with in the state, we have to go in this direction right now.
Okay. So will a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom have a 2-car garage? Is that how that's
You know,
going to
we
work?
haven't refined the plan to that point yet, but we're leaning towards that direction, the
Okay.
larger units having a 2-car garage.
Okay, all right. Bear with me, I only have a couple more questions. We're hoping there will not be parking allowed on 88th Street and that you're not intending
I
on that?
couldn't imagine that we would want
Yeah.
that, either
Heck no.
you or I, so.
No,
You're
no.
right.
All right, just thought I'd throw that out
Right,
anyway.
exactly.
The 0 setback, are you planning to have that off of these particular homes?
Here, let me go back to the site plan, I'm sorry. I'm going the wrong direction.
There's,
Now, the 0, do we have a 0 setback somewhere? I don't know where we have a
we
0
don't?
setback.
Okay, okay, maybe
Yeah.
that is incorrect in their assumption.
I don't see a 0 setback anywhere.
Where you enter the home right off of access or parking garage,
And
okay.
I mean, it is attached product, right? So
Right.
from one unit to the next, when it does get converted, we'll have a 0 setback, right? It's a 0 property line. But
Yeah, each unit is contiguous with a shared wall.
but
Right,
to any
right.
external property line, there's
I think,
lots of space.
and what trustee Dozal is asking is, she doesn't like the 0 setback where you enter the home right off of access of the parking drive. But I'm not sure what she's saying here,
okay,
but
so what-
maybe you
You know,
do.
repeat that, I think I know what she's referring to, but let me hear it one more time.
Don't like the 0 setback where you enter the home right off of access of the parking drive. Maybe not, yep.
I was
All right,
close
we
for
can
a
move on.
second there, but I'm not quite sure. I'd rather talk to him or her in person.
Okay, you can
and-
talk to her the next
Yeah,
time.
and just get it more specific.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either, but
Yeah, let's find out specifically what it is and
Well,
we can address it.
I have one
sure.
more question,
Yeah.
and then somebody else can take a stab at that one. Wait, actually, I have 0. I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Trustee Pennington.
Did you move on?
I only have 2 brief comments. Sure. So the first one is those 2 buildings that are facing the reservoir. Yes, I kind of envisioned that we have a lot more open space facing the reservoir. We don't want to do anything to interfere with the wildlife that has come back now that the reservoir has been restored.
Would you, it's been a common theme.
Yeah.
Could you convert that to a number of feet?
Lots.
I have a tape measure and a yardstick, but I haven't found the lots on that yet. But if there's any way of converting that to a factual number, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Or
well, we can talk about it.
Take a stab at it and come back in.
I think that would be good. I just feel
Okay.
like
Sure.
you can put the density closer to 88th or somewhere else, but not so close to the reservoir.
Understood.
And then if you go to the next slide.
Next slide.
So, unlike Trustee Williams, I think, and I understand that you picked these pictures and you're not responsible for them, for the choices. I just basically like only the bottom right one.
This one here?
That's the only one.
Okay.
The other ones are cold, and I can't imagine having those in Superior. So,
It's a great comment, and we appreciate it.
Just put things in perspective. We
Sure.
the town of Superior participated in a $1.2 million effort to restore that reservoir. It had dried up. We restored it, and we're hoping all the waterfowl, et cetera, return. So it may not look so grand as it used to, but it's got that potential. So that's the reason we're paying so much attention to it, okay?
Sure.
I agree with a trustee who mentioned the concept that set best in my mind was a senior amenity or an empty nester type amenity. And so as you go back to the drawing board after this meeting, I'd sort of like your thoughts to flow over how maybe you can incorporate a multi-generational aspect here.
Well, can I address that?
Okay.
Before we get any further? That's exactly what we're doing here. When I'm referring to this grandmother unit, that's exactly what we're trying to do. You might have a young couple or a young family living in a townhouse, and that one bedroom down below is designed to be the grandmother, some family member who might need some care.
I get it, but what about the independent empty nester or
Well,
independent
the independent
senior?
empty nester is certainly, the whole project is available to them.
Well, just
But see, to focus in specifically as age restricted, we can't
no, we're not talking age restricted.
Okay.
It can be more integrated than that.
Right.
But we've
This project
we've
will
had
attract.
a great need in this community,
Right.
and the stuff we've built so far has just been glopped up. I mean, and so obviously it's a crying need out there. So I'm not going to dictate. I just want you to think beyond me living with my kids, which I'm not so keen on, but into more of a. I have 3 sons. Until they're married, no. But anyway, you get the point. Independent living for empty nesters.
This is the type of
Okay.
project
Okay.
that is very attractive in a move-down situation.
Okay.
There's no yard to take care of. People still have their car. It breathes like their home, and it's eventually will be fee ownership.
I'll keep an open mind.
Okay. Now, you used a term that I'm not familiar with, glumped up. If there's
They're all there tonight. A
These
lot
are
of
the
them have
glumps?
bought this house. These are the glompers. They bought the main story living. That
now,
kind of stuff.
If you could define glumped up, I think we could really try and address that. But
Would you guys, when you come up for public comment, describe that?
Okay.
The second thing is this business with parking. I cannot stress how important it is.
Yes.
The parking situation in Sagamore is really a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so whatever happened, Saddlebrook.
Saddlebrook.
and Sagamore, but you did Saddlebrook,
Right.
is a nightmare. And so as you go to create this, I would hope you'd walk through that one and sort of see what I'm talking about so that we don't revisit those problems here.
Yes. I have driven through Saddlebrook recently, and I can echo your concerns.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is the architecture. We have rejected as a town, and I'd invite you to go through the design concepts that we put together in 2012 for the Superior Town Center.
Oh, great.
Great deal of thought to it. We're not really interested in sort of quickly dated urban architecture. We're interested in architecture that ages gracefully and contributes way down the road to the value of this community. So when I see most of that up there, particularly upper right and bottom left,
Sure.
both of them, notice, are missing the roof lines.
The crown.
We want something that fits in with the quality of the architecture in town and actually improves upon it and will stand the test of time. So I'm seeing a lot of this in the Front Range.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's very poorly done. So quality is really paramount.
Okay. We'll definitely take a look at the imagery that has been created in the town. And we just hired a new architect. He's no longer with us tonight. I'm teasing. No, but we'll seriously study that.
Okay.
Architecture is very near and dear to me also. And it's hard to come into a meeting like this just nailing it. So you bring imagery in, you try and get feedback, and then the way I like to move forward is you create image boards, and you work from image boards. And then once you have image boards, you can pull from the people, the decision makers, the community, pull from those image boards, and then you can start to actually create elevations and then work with the elevations. So we're kind of going, from my perspective as a developer, sensitive to architecture, we're kind of going about it the wrong way by bringing these in. So I apologize for
Well,
that.
we'll entertain you a second time.
Great.
Okay. Trustee Cirilli?
Just a couple of questions. I take your word for the lack of this being an ideal commercial location, although I will mention that there's a high school just on the other side of the bridge, and if you had a pizza place there, you might have a home run. But
Very good point.
the idea of changing the zoning, we have to face as a public hearing, so I won't
Sure.
comment on that now. I will say that developing this parcel, maybe as residential with a little bit of commercial like you're suggesting, with the advantage of getting the open space development that we're hoping to get here, is a real selling point to me. So, particularly tying it in with the Hodson-Harris Reservoir, opening it up, the trail and open space to the public would be very good. So, I'll leave the architecture to architects and people with taste. And
Well, we'll probably want to pull you in on that, too.
okay. But that's all I have to
Yeah,
say.
thank you. Thank you.
You know, my comments, I'm generally in support of what I'm seeing here. I agree with the comments that have been presented. I would really like to further explore, see if this could be some type of for sale product. I mean, I think you would agree that that is the demand right now, and there's tons of apartment projects, there's tons of rental projects going up. They're easy to finance and they're easy to build. For sale products or not, what we can do from a town's perspective is plat notes. We're a statutory town. We're not a home rule city. Home rule cities have been passing ordinances. All we can do is plat notes. Another developer tried that, and we rejected it, but I think for different reasons. And so from my perspective, I would like to explore that if that could mean for sale product. I don't know if that would get you where you need to go.
Here's the bigger global problem, and to address what you're referring to here. All this stuff is financed through big equity sources, big lenders, et cetera. This is probably a $90 million project right here, plus actually. And when you get into those numbers, you're tapping into big money sources, and none of those money sources want to touch for sale attached product in the state of Colorado. There's just too much litigation that's taken place, and frivolous litigation at that. So it's virtually put a red line around, call it the Front Range, in this type of product in the for sale. So we're trying to weave through the financing world, the zoning world, and the market demands to come up with a product here that can address everybody's needs, and we can weather the storm of building something and letting it age and then move into conversion at a later date. Again, in a similar fashion to the way Saddlebrook, which was formerly called the Jefferson, I believe. So,
okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, but and I could talk at length about it, but we've really kind of dug in on this one already with money sources and talking to them, and with regards to the apartment, and apartment buildings aren't that easy to finance. They go up, and we see them being built, but there's some real restrictions in the financing world that we're seeing right now. So they're not that quite easy to get finished. So anyhow, But thank you so much for your comments.
Yep. Okay. Any additional comments?
Thank you for
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda, items A through F. I want to go ahead and have a motion for consent agenda items A through F.
I'd like
Joe?
to make, go ahead.
No, Joe had his on.
Yeah,
I move, so moved.
Okay. Motion by Trustee Sorelli, second by Trustee Gregoris. Roll call vote.
Sorelli?
Yes.
Folsom?
Yes.
Gregoris?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes, but I abstained from voting on the minutes of that meeting.
Pennington?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody
Motion,
vote G, was that-
motion passes. We have 11G and 11H to discuss. Trustee Hanson, you want to go with 11G?
Yeah, just real quick, just a couple of quick questions on that.
Phyllis, can you get the lights?
The current pump station, is that going to be still there, and the new one will be just redundancy?
Yeah, the current lift station will remain in place. We don't have any plans to physically take that.
The lift station will probably decommission it and not
Yeah,
use it.
right, but
But it would be there available for whatever reason in the future, just if we needed it, or?
Potentially. I think the state health department may have a say in that.
Right, yeah.
Whether it has to be taken apart or not. I mean,
Right, yeah.
I think they have some regulations about having that available.
Okay. And then, does Louisville benefit from this at all? I mean, so this is all gravity fed.
Right,
Yes.
So there's
I
no
mean, there'll be
backup plan for them in case
some-
they run into the same problem?
Some small revenue that they would generate from it, but it's more of a partnership thing, helping another city out. They have a similar agreement with the city of Lafayette.
Mm.
So,
And I realize if something went down, it's just for a day, but they have the
Yeah.
capacity for that. And,
yeah.
Okay. That's it. Simple.
Okay. Anyone have anything else? Okay. Someone like to make a motion for
I'll make a motion on it.
11G?
Yep. I'd like to make a motion as Superior Metropolitan District Number 1, Resolution Number SMD Number 1-4. Is that correct, Phyllis? Yep. Series 2016, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 approving an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Louisville for emergency sewer overflow.
Motion by Trustee Hanson, second by Mayor Pro Tem Williams. Do we need a roll call on this, or?
Need a roll call?
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimous. All right, 11H was pulled by Mayor Pro Tem Williams, adoption of a resolution approving an easement and maintenance agreement with Centerpoint Development Company and Superior Plaza LLC.
So when we first started this whole process, we had the option of selling Lot 1 and 2. or 1 or 2. And here we are. And as I reiterate what I think is happening, or what our bottom line is Lot 1 ends up being $605,000. That's in the packet right here, right? And Lot 2 is going to cost about $300,000, right? So our net is about $300,000 for the 2 lots. What I want to know is, can Lot 2 ever be sold? Can it ever be used for development? Never.
Not unless the agreement terminates for some reason. Let's say Superior Liquor moves to another location, unfortunately, and CenterPoint comes to us and says, they have plans 10 or 20 years from now to redevelop their Lot 1 and use Lot 2, then we could work something out with them. If we didn't, if another user didn't go into a Superior Liquor space right away or something like that.
Okay. And so we're not receiving any lease payments for the parking use at all?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, this is not what I had envisioned of what we were going to do. So the whole thing is just a concern for me. And I understand where we're going with this, and that was what our intention was. But this is not exactly the execution of it. At least that's how I feel. So I just want to make that very, very clear instead of voting on it in the consent agenda. So, and I also want to find out, is all the parties happy with the final result here?
As far as we know, they've all signed it, so.
Yeah, the board received the CenterPoint's signature page and Superior Plaza's as well.
Okay, so, all right, but I do want to reiterate and put it on the record that in the future, when we do something like this, we should make it very, very, very clear exactly what we're looking for, because this is not how I envisioned this was going to work. So that's to everyone here as well. And if I don't know how you're viewing this, but
it is working out how I envision it, so.
Okay, then.
Trustee Gregors?
Going to make a motion, but
No, I think we have some public comment though. But,
if you want to make a comment, if you come up to the mic.
So before we go public comment, I agree with the mayor that this was very clear to me that this actually provides more parking opportunity for one of our top 5 businesses in the town, and further encouragement to keep them in town, in addition to bringing new businesses in town. And if we didn't do the parking spaces or the parking lot as we're doing, then CenterPoint probably wouldn't be bringing the businesses here, and it would probably sit vacant unless we wanted to take Taco Bell up on their offer to move in there, and we don't want that. So I think this is a great plan. I think it benefits, again, one of our top businesses in town, and it brings more business in, so I'm absolutely all for this.
I am not disputing the end result at all. I think that is exactly what we should have done. But what I think we should have done was sold Lot 1. Lot 2 is 100% retained with the town. And that is not the case here. And I thought we were leasing the spaces. If this just feels, a little bit very different process than what I thought. The end result was going to be that we were going to help out Superior Liquor and CenterPoint with additional parking spaces, which is what is needed. And that is not my concern here.
Did you think that we were going to lease to them the spaces?
The space, exactly.
Well, they're covering the expenses. So, I mean, we could lease it to them, and then we pay those expenses, and then it nets out to the same.
Well,
so, I mean, that's
a surprise, too, because I thought that it was town-owned, that we, as a town, were going to develop it in some way, shape, or form for the parking spaces. So, I mean, it's just a different process that looks very different than what I was expecting.
Would you prefer that we would have sold that parking lot parcel number 2 to one of the businesses?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it just seems very convoluted and more complex than it needed to be, is how I feel.
Trustee Pennington.
I agree with Trustee Williams' frustration. I would never have chosen this methodology to get to the end point we've gotten to. I'm very troubled by this concept of a permanent easement, which is not at all, I didn't even conceive of that as one of the many ways we could skin this cat and get to the end result. The only reason I will support it, frankly, is the parties appear to be comfortable with it. And we have one of them here. If they're not, they better speak up. But I think there were many ways in which the town would not give away a permanent easement, but would do a long lease term that after the course of a number of years reverts to town ownership, and the town may be able to do something with it besides it being a permanent parking lot. So I know the frustration Deborah's talking about. I have it too, but because the end result appears to be agreeable to the parties, I reluctantly will go along with it.
Okay. Let's go ahead with public comment. Come on up.
My name is Chris Lockerman. I'm with Boulder Valley Ice and Superior, and their only concern was that it doesn't disrupt any of their day-to-day operations. And I don't know if this is post Boulder Valley Ice once we go to the new facility, or this is going to possibly affect our day-to-day business, is what their only concern was.
Okay.
Go
Are you here representing Luke Taylor?
No, I'm here representing Boulder Valley Ice. Luke Taylor has to do with the town development. The current Boulder Valley Ice.
Right. We've had discussions with Ranch Capital, who
Okay.
owns Lot 3, which
Right.
is what your building sits on.
Right.
If it happens that the parking that we're talking about is needed prior to everybody moving over to the new facility, the area to the south of the building where the contractor for the highway is now.
Okay.
That's where your temporary parking would go.
Okay.
So you would still have parking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just for our knowledge, when is that move supposed to take place, where everybody moves into BVI?
It'll be in April.
Okay.
Completely over there in April? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when in April, but it'll be in April.
And then what would happen to
But
that?
they still may use that facility, the temporary facility, if they need overflow.
So that's what I was going to ask. So that facility is not going to go away?
Well, it will go away. Once Ranch Capital has a hotel developer who needs the lot, then they have to notify them that they have to take the building down so the lot's available for.
But not until then? Okay.
Right.
All right, I didn't know that.
But
So
I
that
think
could be a
Ranch
couple years.
Capital, well, no, I think Ranch Capital intends for the facility to not be there, for an extended period of time.
Okay.
I can probably clarify
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So originally, we didn't think that we'd need the ice, and now that we're going to a new facility, exactly like you said, until that land gets sold to a hotel, there is still possibility that we plan on operating the current facility as long as it's there until a hotel developer steps up.
So that's new. We didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion. Sure.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-
If you've got me there, just a minute, let me look. 15.
15, Series 2016, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving an easement and maintenance agreement with CenterPoint Development Company, LLC, and Superior Plaza, LLC for Lot 1, Block 2, Superior Town Center.
Okay, motion by Trustee Gregorio, second by Mayor Pro Tem Williams. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimous. All right, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is item number 12, discussion and action regarding Coal Creek Crossing Trails. This is an agenda item that's a follow-up from our last meeting where the town manager asked the board for some direction on these trails proposed for the Coal Creek Crossing subdivision, and the board gave direction to the town manager to eliminate the east-west proposed trail and then to put on hold the north-south trail. We've since heard a good bit of comment from residents who were expecting that trail to be constructed, and so we wanted to go ahead and try to get a decision made rather than having this on hold indefinitely and having it not be decided. We'd like to go ahead and get a direction on this. So that's the purpose of the agenda item. We do have a number of members of the public that would like to speak. Maybe we could have a little bit of board discussion and then we'll take public comments. Anyone on the board like to make any comments or questions on this, or just go to public comment? Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, I was just going to say, I've walked that area many times, and it is very marshy. I did not walk it recently in the last month, but I just want everyone to keep that in mind as we figure out an alternative or whether it be what's exactly proposed. So just be thinking of that.
So along those lines, I guess a question for staff. I mean, I'm guessing that staff has looked at this marshiness and figured out that a trail could be constructed through there. Is that speaking of the north-south?
I personally have not, but
Okay.
my open space parks staff's out there all the time. They've also had a number of conversations with Boulder County staff on how we connect with the single tree trail, and I believe they mentioned to me that the Boulder County staff also mentioned about not wanting to have social trails be developed. But yeah, I mean, we've had those discussions.
Would Boulder County make that connection, what we see here like in orange?
Yeah, once we get to the county borderline, then they would have to make
But
that
not,
final
that's not the
connection.
piece that we're talking about, though.
No, I know.
Okay.
Can we call it up on the
Yeah.
screen?
Yeah.
And have we identified a specific strip of land that we know will actually accommodate a trail?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's drawn in. It doesn't mean that that's been surveyed. That's all I'm asking. Has it been surveyed? Do we know for sure that there is a piece of land that can
I think that's
accommodate a trail?
That's what staff has got to work with the county and others on is figuring that out. I don't think that has been determined.
Okay.
We have a
That's all
general
I- that's what I
location
need to
that's
know.
shown on the approved final development plan, but as you get out there, it may move slightly.
Okay, so we haven't determined that yet. That's all I want to
Correct.
know.
Okay, we're pulling up the drawing. Does anybody else have any?
I do.
Martin, could you put the drawing of the trail, the Coal Creek Crossing Trail drawing up on the screen?
From the agenda?
Sure.
From the packet?
Anybody else have any?
Did you
No,
have a
if somebody
comment?
wants to talk in the meantime, that's fine.
I'd like to hear from the public.
Okay, yeah.
Well, we should hear from the board members first.
Anybody else have anything?
Sure. I do have a comment, but I'd like to see the.
Okay.
I guess I can start the comment though, but it seems like in every subdivision we have, we've got an opportunity to put a new trail in that could have probably gone in when the subdivision was originally built. Residents always want to have access to trails, ease of access. And I'm not convinced that eliminating the north-south trail along with the east-west trail is going to provide easy access to the trails to those residents. But at the same time, I'm sensitive to the residents that have been in town for 100 years, 100-plus years. And I'm wondering if there's a compromise. And we've seen some opportunity maybe of realigning the trail instead of having to come right over here, right next to the property here. But maybe can it come up here or somewhere out further away so we're not going right by this property there. But it's been shown to us that several residents purchased property there, or those houses in Coal Creek Crossing, partially because of the access to the trails, or that one north-south trail going in. So I think that we have to, as a board, as residents, we have to come to some kind of compromise and allow people to have the access that they thought they were going to have. And I think that we can do that, and hopefully we can do that without people being knee-deep in water. So that's what I'd like to see, all parties come together and see if there's another way that we can make this work so that everybody is happy.
Yeah, I agree completely with Trustee Hansen. I mean, when you buy a piece of property and you're shown an FDP with a trail on it, you have an expectation that they're going to do it, not that they're going to, sit up here and change their mind midway through the project. So I think it would be a complete mistake for us to A, not do it, and B, for us to even put it on hold any further. I do get the logic of eliminating the east-west trail, and I don't think we've heard a lot of objection to eliminating that because it is redundant in some ways, but providing direct access from Coal Creek Crossing to the Mayhofer Single Tree Trail, I think it must be done in my view, and that's what I voiced last meeting. So, Trustee Sorelli, and then I would like to.
Yeah,
okay,
I concur. I mean, we did do this with the FDP. I have no problem with adjusting the trail in a manner in which it makes sense to not be overly burdensome on existing properties, if possible. But I think we should go ahead with it.
And I will echo Trustee Hansen's exactly word for word. Thank you for being so eloquent in sharing that. I think that's the balance. Definitely a north-south trail, but maybe move it a little bit farther away from the Kuffner property. And I agree, the east-west trail is really redundant. We already have the single trail that mimics that. So,
okay, Trustee Pennington.
I just want to actually couch this in a little bit of history for you residents of Coal Creek Crossing that are here. When this was approved by the town board, the FDP was approved by the town board. It was in 2010, I believe, shortly after Chris and I were elected. There is no doubt in my mind, and I think in most trustees' mind, that the north-south trail was approved as part of the development. We did not say no to the north-south trail. We were actually a little confused because we asked the town manager to go back to Remington and say, are you okay with eliminating the east-west trail? And he said yes. And are you okay with eliminating the north-south trail? And he said yes. And so that sort of gets us to thinking. And the reason we put this on hold was to actually give you guys enough time before we made a decision to register your thoughts and the terms under which you bought your house. So to me, even though I am the OSAC liaison and OSAC isn't keen on this trail, we do have to honor our commitments when we approve an FDP. And we approve that north-south trail. So I have no problem with proceeding on a north-south trail. But I do want to bring a couple things to mind to you homeowners. The people who live on this cul-de-sac in here need to expect the public to park there. They have every right to park there. It's a public street, even if it is in front of your house. So you've got to be aware of it. And if they choose to park down 8th Street and up Charles, this is as much a community trailhead as it is a subdivision trailhead. So just warning. And then the person who lives in this house, I actually walked this over the weekend. And somebody's going to have people walking like right by their unfenced backyard, right? None of them can have fences. So let's get the reality check going as to what you're expecting when you come here asking us to honor this commitment, okay? So when you public comment, I would like you to address those points. Are you going to mind possibly a lot of parking? In some of our neighborhoods, there's no parking. It does serve as a neighborhood access. In others, there is parking. And will you mind people walking down your backyard line? Now having, so I do believe we've got to honor the commitments made to the homeowners. So if you speak tonight and you say you want it, I'm voting with you on that. Now, when I was out there, it is very easy. It's not as easy on here as it is on my screen to see the ditches. There's a trio of ditches that carry water during the free-flowing water season from our ditches, from our mountain-fed ditches. And so here's one here. And anybody with better vision than I, it's up there. They go this way, and interestingly, along the easement here, the utility easement, when we put in the sewer for the Kefner properties there. So there are a lot of ditches out there that are going to collect water and overflow onto that open space. So I understand the watering season is April to August or something in there, March to August. So it's going to be marshy. So I just want that all taken into account so that we know our expectations and we know what standards we'll need to ask Remington to build to. They have to build a trail that doesn't wash away. They may have to build a trail that actually crosses over a ditch because it's absolutely essential in my mind that we honor this resident. This family of residents has been here as long as the town almost. And so we're going to have to change the lay of that. And we may have to cross some ditches. Do we have the right to cross those ditches? You know, these are reality checks. So I'm eager to hear your comments regarding a bunch of this stuff. And if at the end of the day you still want your connection, I think we owe that connection to you.
Okay, let's go ahead with the public comment. Just give a wave and I'll signal you to come up. Come on up.
Mr. Mayor, trustees, my name is Bill Silverstein. I proudly reside at 706 Charles Street, and I'm very happy to be a new resident of the town of Superior. And I think I'll quit while we're ahead. I wanted to speak in favor of the north-south connection because it was a factor in my purchase. It was in the approved final development plan and shown on the sales materials, and I would have thought that some of these issues might have been vetted during the consideration of approval of the subdivision. But I'm sensitive to the necessity to have the trail blend in with the environment, not create some of the problem that's been addressed, respect the neighbors, and I'm prepared to deal with the traffic issue. I expect people from Sagamore will want to come down through there, and just like the trailhead over here on 3rd Street, where there's quite a bit of parking over there, it could occur. And yeah, I'm glad that to hear the trustees understand that purchasing and reliance on the final development plan was important to many of us. And I guess I'll stop there. Thank you very much. We really appreciate being notified and having an opportunity to address this.
I'm hoping that residents from Sagamore actually will not drive there, but actually walk from Sagamore.
Yes, walk. I expect they will walk through there.
Okay, walking, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Additional comments? Go ahead.
George Kuffner, 7520. I lived in this town for 31 years. I sit on the ProStack board. As my father talked about earlier, the Kuffners, where we've been here since dirt. I'm an 8th generation Kuffner that's been in this town. I've seen a lot of changes in this town. What kind of disturbs me is, my father is right, George, he talked earlier during public comment, is that they're in the middle of the night at 2 or 3 in the morning. You hear people riding their bikes. I hear people talking about their divorces. I hear financial issue problems because of where our shop is. We hear conversations on this trail right here, the main office Single Street Trail. We hear it. The board really doesn't understand how close it really is to the property line of the Kuffners. And I feel that you guys, board members, trustees, should come out and take a look at it and see what kind of impact it's going to have on the town as well as industrial. I run a business out of there 365 days a year, 24/7. All you guys know that. So when I start up a diesel tractor at 3 in the morning, are they going to be happy about it? Let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic. Do we really need that north-south trail? No, we don't. Can we move it? Yes, let's move it farther down if we have to. But what I'm worried about is when I start a snow truck up at 3 in the morning to maintain these roads right here, are these people going to complain about it, the residents? Okay. That's a question I got to ask you guys. That's what I'm asking right now. And another deal to think about it is the water rights. The Kuffners have water rights. My uncle has water rights. There's ditches out there. When the irrigation ditch is on, that's all going to get flooded out and get washed out. I remember during the flood, those ditches got washed out. They turned on the head gates to relieve the pressure from Coal Creek. I didn't, he didn't, Frico did. The ditch bosses did to relieve the pressure. I was here for that. I worked it. I think, honestly, that you guys need to come out and take a look at it and see where the ditches actually lie and see how close it would be coming to our property, to the Kuffners. I really, really strongly urge you guys to come out. Then make your decision where it needs to go. Thank you.
George,
Okay.
could I ask you
Yeah.
a quick question?
Yeah.
If the trail was actually not there, but actually came out through here, possibly, would that be better for you, or would you?
Actually, you know what? Like I said, you guys need to come out and see exactly, at a bird's eye view, come out and see it. Realistically, come out and see it from a map. Stand at our property line. I'll fire all my pieces of equipment up so everybody hears. So you guys get this, so the residents understand what we do.
Yeah. But
Let's
if
be
people
realistic
are
here.
using this trail,
Absolutely.
walking to get to Mayhofer Trail, by moving it, I could understand if it came here, that you could feel like you're being intruded on.
I feel
But
I'm
if-
being intruded every day.
If
since
we
this
move it out
trail's
here,
been
is that sufficient distance when people are walking, whether you're starting your trucks or not, they're just walking to the trail, is that going to feel less intrusive to you?
No, it's not, Mr. Hanson, no, it's not. You got a trail, I got a trail to the south of me, I got a trail to the west of me. I even have a dirt county road to the north of me that people walk, that ride their bikes, turn their dogs loose out on a public road, which is not very smart. So think about it. I have a trail, a walking trail, which is a public road, which is a county road, which I don't mind. I have a trail to the west of me, which is there's 5 acres behind, which is not a lot. You can actually hear people talking about their divorce, their financial issues, and people scream up and down going down the trail. And I hear it all the time. So I strongly recommend that you guys come out and listen. Come out and watch for your guys' selves to see where the trail should actually go. And if you guys are going to move it, let's move it in between right down here. Let's split this lot right here and come right here and come down here. We really don't need it up there. I feel it's an invasion of privacy. There's a privacy fence up the side of the storage units. How come they didn't come all the way down to the end of the Kuffners?
George, I'm actually glad you raised that. That's the point. It is a little baffling that the developer put in a privacy fence down to about here. And I would like to ask the developer to finish that privacy fence when he does the trail. We're saving all that east-west money
That's right.
that the developer's not having to spend on the east-west trail. And I think a continuation of that fence for privacy purposes behind your property isn't that much to ask. So I would, if we go ahead with this. Huh?
George, would you want that?
You know, it's
Privacy
something that I
fence.
would have to talk to my uncles and the other people that live out there first before anything.
Right.
Prime example, if you guys are going to move it farther away from us. If you guys realistically come out and stand at the corner of our property line, I invite all you guys out to come out and look at it. And stand out there and mark it off the fence and see how close it really is. And then you guys will get a sense of actually reality, how close it is. And how much of an invasion of privacy you guys would feel.
George, would you recommend that a trail be moved from the other side of Charles, maybe
down
right
here.
there? That's
Hey, you know, it's something you got to talk to Rick about. And the rest of the residents of Old Town Superior doesn't want the east-west trail that dumps down here on Charles Street. So if you guys moved it farther down, I think Old Town residents would have a say-so in it.
Well, Rick complained.
Okay,
very
we're getting
articulate.
into dialogue
Okay,
here.
okay.
Let's
Good
get
enough.
on with public comment, and we
Then
can
we'll have the
continue.
dialogue.
So
George, we appreciate.
I appreciate you guys listening to me and my concerns as a resident and also as a taxpayer of this town. But let's be respectful of each other out here.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Additional public comment. Go ahead.
Mike Yates, 115 6th Street, Coal Creek Crossing. And I guess I'm one of the people Trustee Pennington was talking about as grumpy, was it? Or did you have another word? It was Oh, okay, sorry. Anyway, we are a part of that generation, and many of the people that live in Coal Creek Crossing moved there because they are ranch homes where a lot of Glumpers wanted to live. And we want to get our exercise and enjoy the town. We spend a ton of time at Founders Park with grandkids and stuff. And the trails were a big issue for, I would say, just about all of us. When we were first informed that there was talk about removing the trail, we contacted the sales department at Remington, and we contacted as many residents as we knew of. We delivered mails, we sent emails. Not a one was opposed to the trail, not one. Everybody really liked it. We got copies of many of the emails that got sent to you, and you know how much the residents want it and why it was such a big reason for people to move into that neighborhood. I don't know what the situation with extending the fence is, because I don't think that's Remington land anyway. But if Remington agreed to build the east-west trail and the north-south trail, and now they don't have to do the east-west, there's probably room for a bridge or two in there to handle the wetness. And I'm sure they would be happy to not build because that would save them a whole lot of money, but I don't think that's really an option because it was approved ahead of time. And I also agree with the person that commented earlier that if there was going to be any conversation of not approving this, it should have happened before the subdivision was approved, so it wasn't marketed as being a part of it. I'm also not overly concerned. I think it is an issue with it, there being wetlands there and muddy spots, but Colorado's a pretty dry climate, and so I think for the most part we will have access. I'm not sure what starting tractors in the middle of the night has to do with the trail. It's probably more so with the residents living there. But anyway, I guess I want to end up by saying thank you for informing us so we could let the residents know. The residents are strongly in favor, and we would hope that you do approve it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Additional public comment? Go ahead.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Scott Grum. I live at 213 8th Avenue. I am the second lot north of the cul-de-sac. So, as Trustee Pennington pointed out, we do know we're close to the end of the trailhead. We can see the entire cul-de-sac
Right
from our
there?
back sense. Yes, right there. So lot 24. So you can see the entire thing from our unfenced backyard that we'll never be able to have a fence. We do expect there to be more traffic there. We do expect people to be parking there. It's probably not as much parking as what's available at the trailhead at the end of 4th Street, but both streets are residential, so they're probably going to be accessed roughly equally. We do expect people to be walking from Sagamore down the street to access the trailhead. The other thing is you mentioned that the trail comes close to that one house and the self-storage facility. It's been on all the marketing brochures, so whoever bought that lot is well aware that that's there. You know, Remington hasn't been trying to hide it from anyone. The open space was a big consideration for us when picking the location, and easy access to the open space was a prime concern, so we could get into things. Going down 8th Street across Coal Creek Crossing on the other side of the self-storage facility in the Kuffner property, that you can walk on a sidewalk about half of the way. You get a little bit past Milwaukee Circle, and the sidewalk ends. And shortly after that, you're on the dirt road. I've been down that way a few times, and there's always been a car speeding down that dirt road because no one's there watching them, and so it makes it very hard to cross the street with my 10, 12-year-old boys. So I just don't feel it's a very safe thing. I'm always watching very carefully up on the side of the road, and we kind of rush across the street because there is a curve right where the street and the trail meet. So it's kind of a tricky spot to come in. In Original Town, that getting there's also no sidewalks in Original Town. So again, kind of trying to keep everything close to the side of the road, make sure cars aren't hitting us as we're walking through. North-South Trail makes that a lot easier for us to get through and not get hit. I see no reason for the East-West Trail. I think it actually makes things worse for both residents of Original Town and Coal Creek Crossing. And I do agree that that trail alignment that is currently pictured needs to change. It goes entirely too close to the Kufner property, and there needs to be some way that it swings out further and maybe even connects to the Mayhoff Single Tree Trail a little further south and east, so it stays away from the Kufner property and stays a little bit more respectful of what they're doing there. I really don't know anything about the wetlands in the area. I can only trust George in saying that April through, through August is kind of muddy. I've only been there since October, so I don't know.
Well, there was one September, there was some rain too, so.
Yeah.
Rain doesn't stop in August, let's be clear.
And just
so.
to be clear, it's not rainfall that causes it, it's the running of the FICO ditches that
Correct.
that cause it.
So I've walked out there from both ways. There is a barbed wire fence. I tried to respect and not jump over. There is one ditch right by where that one house is that already has a culvert under it. But I understand the whole thing could be a wetland between April and August. I'm not sure what that looks like. And I do agree with the fact that there should be a fence if the Kufners want it. I think that's something they need to go discuss and decide if they want. And then if that's something they do want, have the builder try to put it in. Thank you
Okay.
for your consideration.
Thank you. Additional comments? Okay, go ahead.
Peter Bottomley, ProStack Chair. So I just wanted to remind the board that ProStack's recommendation on this was to, and this was a recommendation that had a 7-1 vote in favor with one absentee member, was to remove the east-west trail but maintain the north-south trail for many of the reasons echoed tonight. The concern over the fact that it had been marketed to residents, that it was what we thought was a valuable access point for the neighborhood. There's neighborhood access points. I would be reluctant to call this a trailhead. Neighborhood access points throughout Superior into the trail systems, as well as concerns over whether or not the Coal Creek Drive and 3rd Avenue trailhead are really sufficient access points for this community. So, we're open to visiting whether or not it could be realigned from what's shown here, but we were in favor of the north-south trail. And then, just on a side note, I kept hearing that the water source for the quote-unquote wetlands has been piped underground, and so what in past years has been wetlands won't be. It would be helpful, I think, if town staff could clarify that point.
Matt, do you know? I don't know if that's true. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Additional public comment? Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, trustees, my name is Jason Greaves. I haven't moved in yet, but I know I'm number 23, which is just to the south of my new neighbor, who I don't know yet. But I wrote you all an email. I don't want to belabor my point. We bought, every single one of us bought in Coal Creek Crossing knowing the existence of the properties around us. We appreciate that. We respect that. We know they're there. None of us were forced to buy there, but we're also bought with the expectation that north-south trail would exist. And I remember Remington telling me there's a good chance east-west goes away. Keep that in mind, but north-south to survive. So we bought with that expectation. And there's also an expectation of reasonable use of the property. I believe it's a reasonable use of the property around the property that exists there as it currently sits. So just to reiterate, I'm in favor of the north-south, and I'd like to see it stay.
Thank you. Additional comments? Okay.
I'm Bill Simmons. I'm at 604 Charles Street,
just a little ways down on Charles. And I won't belabor the points that have already been brought up. I so appreciate all of your consideration of our emails and our letters and our comments, and it sounds like they're being taken into account. Thank you for that. The point that I think has not been emphasized enough is how important it is for our community to be a well-rounded community and to have children and families who want to move in. That was the case for me 18 years ago when I moved into Rock Creek, and our access to open space there was huge for us when we had smaller kids. For us to lose access in our neighborhood, I think would be a big hit for families who are considering moving in. We have a lot of folks who have grandkids, but we also have families there. And I know from walking my dog, for the most part on a leash, as I make my way to the far west access, it's daunting to get out and come back down, but it's okay. But if I were a parent of kids who were 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, I would be worried about that. The storage facility has people who are coming and going, and for the most part are in a hurry. And I also know that because I've used that storage facility twice in the last 18 years over a long period of time. And that's not where I would want my kids to be accessing the open space. I also have counted on that to be in place, partly for my own needs, but really ultimately I really appreciate your consideration of the opportunity for us to be a well-rounded community and attract families like Scott Grum and his kids who bought that property, which is near the access point. So thanks for your consideration of that and for your wisdom in how you're going to figure this all out very much.
Thank you. Additional.
You're assuming we're going to use wisdom.
Any additional comments? Okay. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate and welcome you to Superior. Those of you who moved in and those who are soon to move in, welcome. And I think we've heard, we've heard a lot of ideas, all directions, but I think we do need to take action on this. I'd like to recommend that we take action on this. And I think we've got a very capable staff that can make and incorporate all of the good ideas that have come up in tonight's meeting about trail alignment, possible fence, and how to get over ditches and over water and all of those things. I put that in staff's hand. I think they're fully capable of figuring this out. We just need to make the direction of, giving them direction to move on. Yeah. Trustee Pennington.
Well, this has been a beautiful example of positive group think because we come up with some good solutions this way. So I do think a happy I agree totally with what you said, Mayor. Great happy medium can be accomplished. I think we can honor the promises to homeowners, which I think is very important. But I think as well, OSAC's concern about minimizing the impact on wetlands is very important. And I've been in places where it is wet and they've got a raised boardwalk that goes over it. And I certainly would have staff seriously consider asking Remington to do that because I was out there. It is very easy to see how it is muddy just by virtue of the lay of those ditches. So I think we've got to anticipate that and respect that. If we do that, we've honored OSAC's concerns. If the Kuffners decide they want that privacy fence there, I think that might be a request to Remington because we're saving them a lot of money getting rid of that long east-west trail. And the last thing I want to bring up that nobody's brought up yet, when you walk it, it becomes very apparent that when those ditches are full of water, they're going to become a playground for young kids and possibly a safety hazard. So however that can be communicated to the community and to Remington, I mean, it's just very easy to see how there's a potential for some danger out there when it's wet. So I just didn't want to leave without that public service announcement.
I don't need anything. She said what I was going to say. So
okay.
We're good.
All right. Anyone have anything else?
Matt, do you feel like you got direction?
Do we? Let's take a formal vote on it. I know it's not we don't have a resolution or anything, but I think it would be useful for us to.
Right.
I think it would be useful for us to vote on it. Yes?
That's fine to vote on it.
Okay. Okay. Does someone want to make, do we need a motion, or do we just?
You do need a motion and a
Okay.
second, and then
Okay.
you treat it like any other, but you do it as a
Okay.
motion.
All right. I will make a motion to move forward the north-south trail connection with changes in
Enhancements.
alignment and other items as discussed this evening.
And working with all the different residents as well as town staff.
And then Remington, I'd like the idea of approaching Remington if they're saving money on the east-west trail, putting the fence there and then building the bridges and all
But
that
that's
kind
only
of
if the
stuff.
governors want that, though.
Boardwalk, yeah.
We'll have to
That's-
work
Well,
with-
that's
part of the
saying
working
work
together.
with the residents.
We'll have to work
and
with the county as well.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
And then I would like the periodic report back to the board on progress made and
And
how this
where we're
is
at.
proceeding.
Okay, this is the longest motion in the history of motions. So-
It's
There's a lot of likes.
It's groupthink.
Okay.
Going back to the original
Going back to
motion,
my
yes.
motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, second by trustee Hanson. All those in favor? Passes unanimous. All right. Very good. Okay. Thank you. Next on our agenda is item number 13, public hearing and approval of a hotel and restaurant liquor license application for Brunachelli's Restaurant at the Boulder Valley Ice Facility.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Go ahead and open the public hearing.
Brunachelli's Restaurant has applied for a hotel
Sure.
and restaurant.
Hold it.
What?
Oh.
He has to open the
Oh,
public
I'm
hearing.
sorry.
Okay. Public hearing is now open. Do we have a proof of publication? Yes. Thank you. All right.
Has applied
Town
for
manager.
a hotel and restaurant liquor license for their new location at the Boulder Valley Ice and Sports Facility in the Superior Town Center. The Board of Trustees sits as the liquor licensing authority for consideration of new licenses. In such capacity, the board sits as a quasi-judicial body and can only consider what is presented during the public hearing in making a decision whether or not to grant the license. The applicant is prepared to present testimony to show its request meets the prerequisites of state law. Those include, there's a needs and desires of the neighborhood, the licensed premises, whether or not there are any outdoor areas or play areas in the restaurant where alcohol can be served, and the last one, the reputation and character of the applicants. Attached is a resolution, includes the findings required to be made to issue the license to determine whether or not findings can be made. If not, the application would have to be denied. Any other findings can be added, and the resolution also includes a place for conditions of the license, if any are determined to be added.
That's correct. And just to give everybody a heads up, we haven't had one of these in a long time, but with each witness, the town clerk will need to swear each witness in. So if you would just give her a second before the witnesses testify.
Okay.
Anyone who's testifying, this is, yeah.
It's that guy.
It has been a while, you're right.
It has. It's been a
Yeah.
very long time since
Yeah.
we've had one of these, so I just want to give everyone a heads up. So.
I don't know that this has ever happened.
I don't remember this.
Oh, yeah.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, thank you and good evening.
And then state your name and address.
My name's Max Scott. I own and operate Oedipus Incorporated. We did the needs and desires survey on this license application, and my address is 1216 Tipperary Street in unincorporated Boulder County. If I say Boulder, I always get a lot of jokes. We were retained by the applicant, paid in advance. We entered into an agreement that said we don't guarantee survey results. We conducted the survey. Do you folks have a copy of my report, perhaps?
Yes.
Okay. If you go to page, I think it's page 5, the defined neighborhood is shown on that page. I think we've done all the licenses in Superior. We did Superior Liquors, we did the sushi restaurant, Buffalo Wild Wings, and it has been a while since we've been here in the city, but we're always glad to come. Anyway, the defined neighborhood is on page 5, and you'll see that there are pink areas. Those are the residences that we surveyed as parties in interest under CRS 1247 Part 3. And the blue areas are the businesses that we surveyed, which are primarily the ones to the northwest of the municipal chambers. We have a survey format that allows a person to sign for or against and write in any reason they'd like to communicate to the liquor authority
This is based on our experience with several Rule 106 decisions, 2 of which are published, about how our surveys are conducted. When we do an on-premise license, parties and interests want to know 2 things: what's the menu and when's it going to open? So we had a briefing sheet that explained what a hotel restaurant license is, and the general concept of this particular project, which is it's an Italian theme that has both fine dining and quick service for the adjacent ice rink, and they plan to be open from about 10:30 to 1 a.m. Statutorily, they can be open from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. So after we've explained all of that, and then we've ordered each person to determine if they were a 6-month resident for the residents under the definitions section. If you're less than 35,000, they have to be a resident for at least 6 months out of a calendar year. With that, on page 2 of the report, item number 1, I'm reporting to my client that we did what we contracted to do, and item number 2 are people that were either for it or against it for whatever reason. So we had 37 businesses favoring, 0 against, 145 residences favoring, 4 against, and we have a write in the reason on the petition format. So we tabulate those reasons. We had 2 abhorrence of alcohol. If you don't drink alcohol, you don't have a need for it. That's the purpose of this hearing. We had 1 religious objection and 1 miscellaneous objection. In this survey category, we had, if you round up, 98% favoring the issuance of the license. And then if you buy our argument in terms of who objected to the license, in other words, we subtract out the objections that aren't no need, the survey result goes to 100%, showing a need and a desire for a new license. Margin of errors less than 2%, added in, subtracted out. Both survey results are excellent and show a need for a new hotel restaurant license to be approved. Any questions?
Okay. Is now the appropriate time for questions about your survey?
Sure.
Okay. So 2 things caught my eye. On your cover letter, it starts out with our packet circulated in 2010, and
that's an error.
I figured it was. So just
the front page of the report clarifies those dates. By the way.
I know.
Sorry about that.
Okay. The second thing that caught my eye was on your residential survey. You started on Elbert Court, which I happen to live on.
Did we knock on your door?
You did, but I wasn't there. But that's not what caught my eye. What caught my eye was there was a house number on there that doesn't exist. And the name by it didn't ring a bell either. And
on the signature line?
On the signature line. But I figured it out because it's my across the street neighbor's nanny who's not a resident. She's a nanny. So she doesn't know the address. But I guess my point is that I think the interviewer, maybe she didn't get the question, are you a resident, or it wasn't asked, or what, but it was just one of those detail things.
We would have
wanted
asked,
to point that out.
And maybe she lives there and she isn't supposed to. I don't know.
I live across the street, and I know she didn't live there. So
well, if we subtract her out.
I know it's not statistically, it's not going to matter, but I just point that out to you as if I were a business owner, I'd want to know, I'd want to know that.
We can only take their word for it.
Okay.
But I apologize for that.
Okay. Anyone have anything else?
What are the odds that it was?
Well, this just proves that I read things.
You do.
It's been accused that I don't.
That's very impressive, actually, indeed.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right. Anyone have any?
Make a motion?
Do we?
I think there are other.
I think there's other formalities.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know there were more.
I'm sorry. Yeah, there's usually an applicant who would. Is there an applicant here? Okay.
Are you Chris?
Oh,
yeah.
He's been looking for you the whole time.
I left you a
I
voicemail.
came and then I was sent away, then I came back.
Come back, Chris.
So again,
Wait, you need to be sworn in.
oh. Yes. My name is Christopher Lockram. I'm actually currently the Boulder Valley Youth Hockey Director, and one of my best friends who owns Brunelleschi's in Aspen, I brought to the table to run a family-run restaurant when this was available, and I approached him because the whole manner of which we started the restaurant in Aspen was a community-based. There was no family-friendly place to eat in Aspen that was affordable, so we used the hockey community in Aspen, and we built a family-friendly, affordable restaurant. And so when this came about, I was like, wow, this is a perfect fit. So I am here for him, just to be able to speak on his behalf because he's not able to come down from Aspen. So, okay, thank you.
And
So
might I,
Wait,
Go ahead.
before you guys go back and forth.
Yes.
Do you have any questions for the applicant while he's up here?
I do.
Yeah.
How important is alcohol to your bottom line?
I
We-
can answer that one.
Yeah.
Well, here's the
right.
thing. This is a kid-friendly environment,
Right.
and we've gotten the concern. All of us have received it. Do we really need alcohol in amongst all these kids?
Well, I mean, I don't think the kids are. I mean, there's an adult populace of adult soccer players that are going to be there, adult leagues for both soccer and hockey that'll be there post hours for past the time that the kids are gone from the facility. That it's
How about
necessary.
mixing rabid fans and alcohol?
Trust me, as a youth hockey director, I can understand that. That's one of the. It's just a youth sport problem, and you add alcohol, but it is definitely one of their biggest profit centers for them to be successful. And you can speak to that.
Sure. I'm in my 48th business year. I don't know whether you can tell or not. I've had glasses for several years and the cataract. Who cares, Max? We've done about 6,000 licenses in the state, and a number of those have been family-type facilities, like the theater across the street in Louisville, where they serve alcohol. We did all the AMCs, Chuck E. Cheese, and so on and so forth. And they're very well controlled. They tend to have few, if any, violations. If they don't have alcohol, in restaurants where they didn't have alcohol, they lose night business. So whoever wants the cocktail or the beer is the one that makes the dinner decision. So you may lose a 4 or 5 top $20 or $30 because you don't sell a glass of wine and a beer. The hotel restaurant license has a required food percentage with a full-service kitchen, and I think that their alcohol to food ratio is probably going to be in the neighborhood of about 75-25, 75 being the food side. Also, when we were retained on the license, we informed the applicant that we are certified as a responsible vendor. That's CRS 1247 Part 10, and it goes on ad nauseum in the regulations. So liquor enforcement has issued certificates to my wife and I, Spanish and English, to do vendor training. You've heard other terms like tips and responsible service and so on and so forth. This is the state program, and you have to meet certain points of training, and we've been involved in maybe 250 or so violations, so we teach to that. To how to prevent violations, the 7 forms of identification, and so on and so forth. Also, I have it back over here. Excuse me for a second. We suggest, I can pass this out as an exhibit if you want. This was created by the Restaurant Association through the state legislature, and every entry-exit should be posted with this notice to prevent alcohol from leaving the premises, to include the service door. Sometimes the employee is sneaking something out the door. And then it cites the citation down below. So we'll train to that, how to control the patio, and so on and so forth.
Question for Chris.
Yeah.
So is alcohol going to be beer served? I've only seen what I think is the footprint of the restaurant.
Right.
And then there's balcony areas outside
Yeah.
the restaurant that overlook the ice, the
Correct.
sheets of ice. Are the balcony areas going to have tables, and is there going to be bleachers where you can have a beer in
Yeah,
the
so
bleachers?
there'll be bleachers and balcony to each facility, meaning the west rink, the east rink, the soccer, rugby,
Yeah, yeah.
lacrosse, outdoor fields, but it'll all be closed off to the rest of the public.
Okay.
So like from the restaurant, there'll be a door to the balcony, but that balcony will be closed off to the public from the rest of the stands.
Okay.
So the only way you'll be able to receive alcohol or food service is within the corridor blocked off by doors of the restaurant. Even though
Okay.
you're in open space, it's still blocked off from the public.
Okay. And I didn't recall seeing it in here, but is it beer and liquor?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Beer, wine, and distilled spirits.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So unlike Mile High, there's no chance if you're watching the game and the bleachers, you're going to get beer dumped on your head. Is that what you're saying? Because it's closed off at the top.
Well, it's not closed off open on the front. It's closed off like there's it's hard to describe, but there's bleachers that come from, like you'll exit a door and there'll be bleachers and it'll be open air to the facility, but
Okay.
there'll be a wall separating that portion of stands from the rest of the public stands.
Club levels.
Yeah, so like it's its own little area, which is one of the things that sold the restaurateur on. That was a really cool aspect, that people could actually still
Watch.
and be served dinner and alcohol. So.
I thought we were told on the tour that it was glass.
Well, there'll be glass or doors separating.
But I actually thought you looked through glass to
No.
the field.
Well, maybe the field.
Or the rink, whatever you're looking.
Well, not
to.
the rink. The rink is definitely, you walk through a door from the restaurant to get to the service area of the restaurant that is available to the stands, but it's still closed off to the public stands, if that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe.
Legally, there
but-
needs to be a physical separation between the area in which alcohol is served.
Okay, that's the que-
Yes.
There is.
Right.
Yes,
Right,
so
that's
that's
what I was
why
getting
they need to distinguish stands in
Right.
which you may drink from stands or bleachers
And,
from, in which
and
you
there
may not.
100% is a complete
Right.
separation from.
There has to be a complete separation.
Yes.
That's what I.
Now, who is the guarantor that is in place? Is it that you, with all your surveys and such, or is it
We do the alcohol training. And
Right.
are you the registered manager?
Yes.
So he
He-
filled out what's called a
Okay.
DR 8404I, fingerprinted
Right.
and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm more concerned. I'm really not concerned about selling liquor to underage, to
Right.
the kids in the hockey uniforms. I'm not
Yeah.
worried that much about that. I'm worried about the overconsumption
Right.
by parents who may have been in those stands 4 hours and may get a little aggressive if their kids' team's losing.
Right.
That's what
But
I'm
that
concerned
happens from
about.
time to time in
That
sporting
can
events, and
happen.
they
I mean-
they get arrested or they get
But
escorted
it
out.
doesn't
I
happen
mean,
if you don't serve, it doesn't happen as much, perhaps, if you don't serve alcohol.
That's possible, but like USA Hockey and I'm sure USA Rugby, we have zero tolerance policies. Like for instance, we opened Wednesday, and last night we kicked out the first parent. As soon as they scream at a referee, as soon as anything, that they're done, they're out, whether they've had alcohol or not. It is a zero
And
tolerance
it's for that
policy.
game?
What's that?
It's for that game, they're out for
Well,
that
it depends
evening.
on how
it's a repeat
far
offender,
they go,
yeah.
but.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a zero tolerance
Okay.
in it, and that's a youth sport issue
Right.
beyond alcohol.
That's right.
Yeah, they do that with volleyball too. You can get
Yeah.
kicked out so fast.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
I just wanted to
No.
disclose for the record, because I know that Trustee Pennington referred to this, and I wasn't aware of it, but apparently the entire board received an email today at 3:35 p.m. from someone named Brian, and I'm going to read it into the record because
Okay.
you should have received notice of this. It says, "Dear Board, my recollection is that BVI is synonymous with youth hockey and was approved for development in the context of youth sports. Youth hockey, rugby, and soccer, all areas of focus at least one time by BVI, are contact sports involving a strong sense of competition among both players and spectators alike. We are all aware of incidents involving fighting that have made the national headlines over the years. In a town whose unwritten brand is kids and kids first, is it wise to permit alcohol in such an emotional venue? Alcohol is already available at Old Chicago a few steps away and outside the BVI venue. Why put it so close to the fire of competition and our impressionable youth? Before you approve this license, take some time to hear from our various youth, religious, and school groups. Talk to our sheriff's representatives, past and present, and hear what they say goes in Superior after dark. We have the benefit of having a licensed therapist and a former reserve sheriff's deputy on the board. Both are well aware of the problems that alcohol brings in certain settings. I'm not against alcohol at all, but I see it getting abused starting at a very early age. I personally believe there is an epidemic of alcohol abuse among high school and college students, as well as certain adult populations across the nation, and Superior is no exception. I'm sure the temptation to approve this license and all of the revenue benefits it offers is overwhelming for some, but the town shouldn't be encouraging alcohol consumption. If you feel compelled to approve this liquor license, I suggest bumping the fee up to compensate the town for the additional sheriff's presence that will be required. I also suggest that the town increase the license fees for all establishments that provide alcohol and use the funds to educate the community, parents and teens, on alcohol abuse. Thanks for listening. Brian Hill, Kyoto Lane.
Kendra, just for the record, too, I replied to that message at 4:07, just saying, Brian, thank you for this message, or thank you for your message. We will take your comments into consideration as we discuss this item. And I'm trying to do that as a course of action to reply to
There's no problem. It's just
comments
that
we get.
because this is a quasi-judicial hearing, any communications about it have to be read into the record, so that the applicant has notice of what you all are considering while you're sitting here.
Yes. Okay.
I have a rebuttal. You want to hear it?
Sure, go ahead.
There's a classic case, I think it goes back to the 50s, maybe the 60s. It's known as Mobile versus Meyer. Mobile versus Meyer says that speculation is not a reason to deny a license, and there is a vehicle for taking care of any problems that might happen, and that vehicle is known as a suspension revocation hearing. So, and believe me, the state is very diligent about checking licenses, especially in the first few months after the license is issued, and you probably have an enforcement officer through the BCSO, I would imagine. And we specifically teach to that. We did the Dick's athletic facility in Commerce City, not a single problem in the last, I don't know how long they've been there, 8 or 10 years. So that's a facility that has a lot of youth programs and intramural this and that, and they've never had a problem. The problem, the type of outlets that do have problems if they don't control them are what I call the boogie joints, where people are in there toe tapping and finger snapping and having a great time, and sometimes the management loses control of that, but then they get a suspension revocation hearing and they get a penalty and or the license is revoked. For this type of facility, I've never seen a problem, and we're generally aware of that in the industry.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any boogie joints here in Superior. So.
But finger snapping and toe.
Finger snapping.
Sounds
and
kind of
toe
interesting,
tapping.
though.
tapping.
I can also tell you,
It's
like,
called dancing.
as I said, it's a family restaurant. We are a family community. A lot of us live in the Rock Creek area, and you can check to Brunelleschi's history in Aspen, and it's the same thing. It's a community-driven restaurant where families hang out, and there have never been any issues of violations, so you can check to that.
Is there a similar restaurant in the other ice facility in Littleton that Luke
So,
is part of?
I mean, to be honest, we do not want to be the traditional fried food place. It is a healthy food, and I mean, my kids go to school in Superior. We want Superior residents to go there. It is really good, quick, healthy, family-style food. And so there is it's just like fast food stuff in the one at the Ice Ranch in Littleton.
Okay.
There is a restaurant and bar there. But we're trying to do something completely different. I mean, being in Boulder and having athletes go through there, we're concerned and conscious of the fact that we want them eating healthy food, not just all fried food stuff. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. What's next in our
Is there,
procedure?
the next would be to ask if there's anyone in the public who wants to comment on the application? Anyone in the audience? No. And then if not, to
Okay.
close the public hearing.
Well, I have a question of staff before you close.
Okay.
Do we still have the outstanding fingerprint issue?
Can certainly ask the town clerk about that. Have you received the fingerprints back yet?
We have received Mr. Lockridge's, but we have not received Gil, and I can't pronounce his last name. So that is outstanding.
They're in the mail.
The fingerprint's in the mail.
With the check.
The owner of the restaurant in Aspen resent them. Somehow they got.
So the reason I ask is that would have to be a condition if we,
Yep.
if we go to approval.
Okay.
And that would be something that the town clerk wouldn't be able to actually, so just to give you the process, if you approve the issuance of a license today, it doesn't get issued today. It gets issued after we basically go out and inspect the premises and determine, not we, but someone from town staff goes out and makes sure that what I said earlier about the areas being physically separated, there has to be a physical inspection of the site, and then the fingerprints will have to come back, and that all happens before the actual piece of paper is provided. And just so you know, as the applicant, and I'm sure Max will tell you, you can't serve a single drop of alcohol until you have that piece of paper in your hand, regardless of what happens tonight. So.
I can tell you I was in there today. They're a few months away.
Okay.
Well, that was my next question is what's the expected opening date? And then we'll set a timeline to inspect it and all that?
Yeah, I mean, it won't be until they receive their certificate of occupancy, which will be in April, so.
April at least, okay.
And, and there's still construction for the restaurant as well that needs to occur, so.
Okay. Okay. Anything further before we close the public hearing? Okay. Public hearing's closed.
Can I read
You
it?
had a question?
You can read it.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1. Where am I? Oops.
Town of Superior Liquor Licensing Authority.
Okay, why am I missing that?
That's okay, I have it.
Okay, you have it. Go for it.
Trustee Gregson, you can second.
Would like to make a motion to approve Town of Superior Liquor Licensing Authority Resolution Number R-LLA-1, Series 2016. A resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior acting as the local licensing authority, approving an application for a hotel and restaurant liquor license for Brunelleschi's, and I got coaching from Trustee Pennington how to say that correctly. Thank you. Restaurant.
Are we going to get a bronze door?
Okay, motion by Trustee Gutierrez, second by Mayor Pro Tem Williams. Do we need any kind of formal vote, roll call vote or anything on this?
You might as well do a roll call vote. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Even though it's not money.
It's money for somebody.
Sorelli?
Yes.
Folsom?
Yes.
Gregorius?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Pennington?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you for coming and.
Thank you.
Okay.
We look forward to having dinner at your place.
Pizza.
Yes. All right.
You too.
We are just about on schedule, too. Item number 14, public hearing and approval of a resolution for Superior Metropolitan District Number 1, approving an easement vacation for Lot 1, Block 1 of the Superior Town Center.
No, I think I'm on a different
Okay.
packet.
Public hearing's now open. Do you have proof
I
of
don't know.
publication? Yes, proof of publication's verified.
Thank you, Mayor. The town's entered into a sale and purchase agreement with Centerpoint Development to build commercial building on Lot 1, Block 1 of the Superior Town Center, which is shown on the map in your cover memo. The subject property is northwest of the intersection of McCaslin Boulevard and Marshall Road and is designated for commercial use within the Superior Town Center. Superior Metropolitan District Number 1, SMD1, is the owner of Lot 1, is the applicant on this request. Centerpoint Development has requested that SMD1 vacate a portion of an existing utility easement that encumbers the property. The existing easement runs along the western border of Lot 1. The vacation that's being proposed, which would affect 452 square feet of a triangular-shaped area near the southwest corner of the property. It's being proposed to facilitate the future construction of a 7,500 square foot commercial retail building. There's no utilities that lie within this area that's being requested to be vacated, and the proposed storm sewer line that is shown on the vacation site plan will be installed within the revised easement boundaries. Future operation and maintenance of the storm sewer laterals proposed for the project will be the responsibility of the developer and not SMD1. This vacation request would allow the proposed commercial building to construct approximately 10 feet further west, closer to McCaslin Boulevard, which will facilitate the overall design in several regards. It shifts the shift will increase the building's visibility from McCaslin while still affording the structure on appropriate setback from the right-of-way. Additionally, this vacation will allow both parking spaces and patio areas to be included east of the proposed structure. Let's see. The Planning Commission discussed this at their meeting on February 16th. They had questions about the purpose of the existing utility easement and whether the proposed development would have an impact on the existing access easement along the lot. Staff clarified this with the Planning Commission, and they voted to support the vacation of the easement. Stephen Williams, our planner, is here and has a couple of slides to show you as far as where the easement exactly is.
Stephen Williams, staff planner. Matt's covered most of it. I just had some slides that actually help illustrate where everything was. So lot 1, block 1 is circled here in white. And then this is the general location of that easement vacation. Here again is the triangle within the site plan, and you can see the encroachment that would occur should this vacation not be approved. The building wouldn't be able to be located as proposed. And this is just a general illustration that this is the existing, to help illustrate, because it's pretty faint, the lines that they have on their plans. This is the existing easement line, and this is the proposed line. So what would occur is essentially that our east-west line would be removed, and this north-south line would be removed and would be replaced with this legal description here. And then what else? What else is constraining this development? Lot 1 actually extends all the way over to this edge. But there's a 55-foot wide access easement that runs along the eastern portion of this property. So to have a patio on both sides, as the current design is shown, and to have parking, the proposed location is that's what's driving this location and why they're asking for it to be able to be shifted 10 foot to the east. And as Matt said, there's no existing utilities within this area. What likely drove the creation of this easement were these two main storm sewer laterals that come in this direction, east-west and then north-south. And Public Works has reviewed this and has concurred that this gives them enough separation to adequately access these lines moving forward. So if you have any questions for me, I'm here for them.
I have one question. Would you draw a line around the perimeter of lot 1?
So lot 1 is shown here, but then it extends all the way over to, and I think I drew the line over it. Oh, it's actually right here. So this is
so actually their lot encompasses, just as you said, the access easement.
Yeah.
That you go through to get to Breaks Plus and to
correct
Old Chicago and Superior Liquor and all that.
Yeah, and as proposed, this location wouldn't have any effect on that easement. So that's
right.
Part of the reason that's driving this encroachment having occurred and then requesting the vacation to resolve it.
Okay. Anybody have anything?
I don't. Do you need a motion?
No, we need to close the public hearing. If there's no other questions or anything of staff, close the public. Oh, wait, we need to offer public comment, opportunity for public comment. Anyone from the public? No public comment.
Out of all that public out there.
Okay. And no further questions of staff. Okay. Public hearing's closed. Discussion? Motion? Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion, Superior Metropolitan District Number 1, Resolution number SMD number 1-5 5, Series 2016. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 approving the vacation of a portion of a utility easement on Lot 1, Block 1, Superior Town Center.
Motion by trustee Hanson, second by Mayor Pro Tem Williams. Do we need a roll call vote or?
No.
Just all those in favor? Okay, passes unanimous. Thank you. All right, item number 15 is adoption of a resolution approving an agreement with Matrix Design Group for the design of the Superior Town Centers, Parks 1 and 2. I think we've seen this item before.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, Mayor. I brought this forward for reconsideration by the board. I know it was defeated last time, but just to kind of give resolution to what the board wants to do, if we want to permanently delay moving forward with this, or if you would like to move forward with it, if you have any questions with regard to the topic. The main issue at the last meeting that the board had the discussion was funding for the FDP. I did go to the developer, the master developer, and ask them, state our, one of the positions that was stated from the board, and asked if they would fund a portion, half of the FDP as an option to kind of move this thing forward. And their position, they stuck to their position that their responsibility in this, for these parks is the construction portion, funding of the initial upfront funding of the construction and actually performing the construction. So the board has two options. I think we could either move forward with the FDP and fund it, or delay, and then at some point in the future, if we come up with an alternative financing, I'm not sure what that would look like or how that would work, but we would do another RFP to solicit design firms.
okay, trustee Pennington.
I'm actually going to shortcut this conversation. My biggest concern, and I remain steadfast on this point, that an FDP is a construction document. It's not a design document. The design will have occurred before that process. And the design did occur before that process. We, as dictated in this cover memo, or described in this cover memo, March and April of 2015, we had town board meetings to review civic space parcel 1 and 2, and then updated concept for parcels 1 and 2, and thought, in my opinion, I certainly thought we had finalized that to move onward over to Ranch Capital. And Matt, I'm going to ask you to correct me if I'm wrong, but in my discussions during the week with you, it appears we're reopening up the design with this contract with Matrix. We are actually opening up the design element again.
Yeah, I mean, what the board kind of finalized was just a conceptual design. That's what the design firm will start with, kind of as a base, but it's got to go through the committees, and they may have changes, just like we did with Remington Homes.
Right.
We have eliminated a trail, and we're going to move forward with one trail. So, I mean, committees, they may not, but they might have suggested changes, and the planning commission as well, and the town board as well.
That is not anything I knew when we reviewed this the first two times, that the design process is opened up again. Thus, design costs are incurred again. I've never had a problem with design costs being incurred by the town. What I have and still have is that element that is FDP. That, to me, is construction, and that is where everything becomes muddy. However, I will relent and accept that if we're opening up that whole design process again, the town has to bear some financial responsibility for that. So, because of that, which I never understood, I thought what we had decided in March and April of 2015 was fixed, and that was what Matrix would incorporate in the FDP. So that's changed. So my only other question is, this design / FDP cost of $173,000 just seems astronomically high to me. Why is that number so high?
Well, it's a higher level of detail. I mean, you have final engineering, you have final landscape, you have final irrigation, lighting, everything's, so the detail is, it's at.
It's not a conceptual plan, it's
Right,
the actual
yeah.
details.
It's concept and it's details, is what I understand. Is that correct?
No, it'll be final
But,
detail.
but we're all the way down to construction documents. Does it include construction documents? Or are we gonna have to pay 50 grand on top of this, or 100 grand on top of this to
Usually,
get
when you get to a
construction
final
documents?
development plan stage, it's a construction level
You can
detail.
construct off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
because I'm not gonna be happy if another thing comes forward for another 50 to 100 for construction documents.
Right.
So, with that understanding, I will remove most of my opposition.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
So, when does the developer reimburse the town when we go to construction costs? Who's paying for that when?
For the construction?
The
For
actual construction.
The actual physical construction?
Those will come out of the bond proceeds that the master developer has issued.
Does
or
that-
the Metro District has issued.
Does that happen when we construct it, or does that happen later? We are reimbursed?
No, the funds will be there when they construct it.
So.
And the town's not issuing the funds.
Correct.
Right. And then those bond proceeds will be refunded through future property tax revenue.
Okay, so when the construction goes forward, the town will not be putting any money up and being reimbursed?
Correct.
Up to 10 million.
The town, say that again, sorry.
Okay, so when we go to construction, yeesh, I didn't do anything.
Wow. A specter in here.
When we go to construction, the town will not be reimbursed because the town is not putting up any money.
Correct.
So they're out there doing the construction and the money is being paid by
The
developer.
districts.
Yeah,
Through the bonds.
The districts.
The districts,
Same thing.
whatever,
Yep.
won't be the town.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Aren't we subject to a $10 million limitation though? What if we want parks that are over the $10 million? What if we want to go all out and spend $20 million on these parks?
Well, they're only obligated up to the 10 million.
And then
So,
the
yes.
other 10 comes out of
If you want $20 million for the parks,
general
yes.
fund?
Wherever you want it to come from.
Right.
Well-
Okay, so 10 million applies here.
Right.
So that is a concern because as I understand, this is somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 million for the two parks, the parcel 1 and 2, is that right, or no?
I don't know.
That's the number that's being thrown around.
Where did we hear that number?
Do we know?
I don't.
You do not know.
That's what the
That-
design's for.
Yeah,
We gotta
we'll
get-
know better with the design.
Usually
Okay.
Martin
Well, I thought
uses-
that was just some
From a
sort of
good source.
ballpark.
Martin uses a number of 10%, whatever, 10% of the cost of the park is what the design costs. That's what I've heard in the past. So I was thinking maybe 2 to
No, I think the
2.5.
number is a lot higher than that. You weren't here in this meeting. I think it was brought up a couple of weeks ago.
Part of, I would think, the design services that you're about to pay for would be to finalize the cost.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
$7 million
million.
doesn't really mean anything. People are throwing
Well,
out
I mean,
numbers that. I don't
I mean, no,
buy.
7 million, that's a lot.
You don't?
No, I don't buy
Hopefully
that.
that's not the case.
After the 4 million
Okay.
But-
I don't buy 7 million.
But, I'm going to point out that the El Dorado K through 8 park is 2 point something.
That's where
So,
that came from, times 2 parks.
so,
The grading costs for these are included in that $10 million figure.
Are or
understand.
not?
Are not.
That's right. So there's a lot
they
of things
shouldn't
that they're
be.
going to do that don't come out of the 10 million.
And then Park 3, which is near the
may
cemetery.
or may not.
80% he's
80%
paying.
of
Right,
that is
I understand.
not
Maybe.
included- Is not included.
Maybe,
Okay.
if Randy likes what we do. if Randy
Right.
doesn't like what we do, he doesn't pay a cent.
Right. Yeah, and I think what I want to know when we're going forward here is, yes, the cost of the park, but how much of that cost of the park is coming out of that 10 million? And how much of the cost of the park is from the developer, like grading? And as I remember him saying, any field included irrigation and sodding, but it's on tape. I played it back. It's not written down anywhere, at least I don't think so, but it's on tape. But I'd like to have that clarified specifically when we're moving forward.
Yeah,
That we know that if this turns out to be 7 million, 2 million of the 7 million is on him, not the 10 million. You following me? I'm just guessing here.
Yeah, well, none of it is on the master developer, it's just, some of it comes from outside that $10 million figure.
Right, it's not coming from the 10 million
Right.
figure. Okay. However you want to coin it, or wherever bucket you want to throw, it's not coming out of the 10 million, and it's not coming out of town.
You want to preserve as
coffers.
much as you can from that 10 million.
Yes, I want to stretch it as far as possible to get the most amount of amenities possible for the town. And if we have to play that tape, we have to play that tape.
Well, you've got it.
Okay, with that.
Make a motion.
Make a motion.
Wait, are we done discussing this?
Well, there's no public here other than Heather. Heather refuses to discuss anything, so she's.
Okay, I'm going to throw one more thing out
Well,
there.
we
could go all night.
We're not
Wait.
encouraging
we've
this,
discussed
you know.
this for 3 meetings,
That's
and
okay, just wait, there's something, wait. The Village Green, which is Tract E, that is the developer's park for his residents. Is that coming out of the 10 million?
I would have to go back and look at
I'd have to go
Exhibit
back
B,
and look.
but I think there's 5 parcels that are included in that 10 million.
Because I remember.
There's parks 1, 2, 3, the Village Green, and then that tiny piece up in the
Okay.
southeast corner.
I remember this Village Green being, because it's for his residents specifically in that little neighborhood, that does not come out of the 10 million. And that's why we put, that the developer has control over what goes in there and not the town.
Well, I'll
If
go
you
back
remem-
and double check that.
Yeah.
It would be documented somewhere.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
Just like the.
It's on
parcel
tape.
three.
Yeah.
That I know it's on tape
That
too.
it doesn't come
Yeah.
out.
I'll make a note of that.
I know.
we're on tape right
It's
now.
perfect.
Okay,
All right.
anything further?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-60? 16, 16, Series 2016, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving an agreement with Matrix Design Group for design services.
Second.
Motion by trustee Hanson, second by trustee Gregoris. Roll call vote.
Hanson,
Yes?
Pennington,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Sironi.
Yes.
You didn't ask me, did you? Because I was a yes too, but I didn't hear my name.
I'm sorry. Reverse.
Okay, just checking.
Is that a yes?
It is a yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. It's a-
It's getting late, I guess.
Oh, no, not yet.
We're ahead.
We're ahead of time. All right, we're on to number 16. Item number 16, approval of the Recycling and Conservation Advisory Committee 2016 Work Plan. You're not going to stick around for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Public comment?
So this was reviewed at the January 25th meeting, actually, with the other work plans for the advisory committees and commissions. This was asked to be brought back with some revisions. Staff went back and looked at our notes and looked at the meeting and provided a red line of what we thought we heard from that meeting, and we're just asking if you have additional changes to the plan, or if you are ready to
Move it as
approve.
is. With the red
Yeah,
line.
I think
Well-
it's fine.
I like the red. You should do it all in red.
Yeah, I think this is sort of an insult to some of the
The red?
No, I just think this rewrite here is sort of an insult to the questions and concerns I had when I brought this all up. This is just, wordsmithing here on a couple things that really is not addressing any of my concerns. This still introduces items that will become part of the budget without board approval process at this point. I don't even know some of these, what they are, the pace and how that becomes part of, or how that even looks process-wise for the town and for businesses. So, I'm not going to be voting for this because this is not what I was envisioning.
The PACE program, it's no financial impact on the town. It's a Boulder County program that they offer to businesses.
Right, but we didn't
Through
approve the
grants.
PACE program for our town. Just because they're interested in integrating the PACE program into Superior, that's great. But
The PACE program has been offered in town for the last few years to businesses.
The PACE program
we
has
haven't had a
been
lot of
briefed to
businesses
us
take
2 or 3
advantage.
times.
Okay,
I don't know what you don't understand about it. It's just a program made available to businesses. Boulder County reaches out to them, offers them training, offers them help if they want it.
Okay, I'm not going to
It's
get
no
into the
expense.
specifics
No
here.
penalties.
Let's just forget
Yes.
specifically the PACE, but I think there are a number of concerns I had in here. They're not addressed, and you just basically wordsmith a couple things, so I'm just not going to be voting for this.
Okay. Anyone have anything else?
This is like the first time in 3 years that I've approved an RCAC plan, a plan that I think is okay.
There's no motion here, right? Is there a motion for this? I didn't see.
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
Yes, oh yeah, there'll be a motion.
Oh, yeah. So, whatever you end up approving and you put in the budget, it's on you.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
What is the motion to approve our tax?
To approve this work plan.
Yeah, it would be to approve the work.
I move that the board approve this work plan for RCAC, their 2016 work plan, as presented.
Second.
Motion by trustee Sorrell, second by trustee Hansen. All those in favor?
Are we spending money here, or is it one by one, or is it?
No, you can't
Could be
spend.
spending money.
No, you can't spend money on this. That has to come back to you. So no, that does not need a.
Okay, Sorelli, Hansen, Folsom, Gregoris, and Pennington. All those opposed?
Twisted my arm, though, to raise my arm.
Williams opposed. Okay, motion passes. Anything else? In the last 30 minutes we have scheduled here.
Anytime
Okay.
before 10 is good.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.